Detroit sports teams live on Woodward.
All of Detroit's sports coverage lives on Woodward Sports.
Driving the best in Detroit sports coverage.
Welcome in to the morning Woodward Show here at woodwardsports.com. Thanks so much for tuning in this morning. Gabrielle D. Phillips, Jeff Iafrate, Sam Flannel, JB, and Alex in the TD booth. So happy to be starting your morning with you. We have lots on deck today. Tell us, Jeff, what's upcoming in the show?
Yeah, we got a packed show today. A lot of NFL to talk about. We're going to sneak a little bit of Tigers in there for Sam Flannel because it seems like we've been going back and forth about the Tigers, and yesterday just kind of put the nail in the coffin for at least me. And I want to see where Sam Flannel's at mentally. But later in the show, we're going to talk also about this NFL quarterback tier list that CBS Sports just came out with, and Jared Goff made an appearance. I'm not going to tell you where he's ranked, but I want to get your guys' reaction to that. Also, the last segment before what's trending, we're going to go through some winners and losers from NBA free agency. But I want to stay with the Tigers right now, Sam, because yesterday, and I really tried, Sam. And right now they're 6.5 games out of the AL Central, which it seems like by the day, that thought of them even contending just it's minuscule at this point. It seems like Minnesota 2 games over 500, Cleveland sneaking up right behind them. They're just under 500. But you know what's a crazy stat too? There was a point in time against that little series against the A's where they went 17 innings without scoring a run.
Oh.
17 innings. Not one, not 7. 17 innings.
Well, thank you. I was in a pretty good mood.
Before Miggy ended it. But of course, Miggy has to answer the phone call. But go on, Sam.
I was in a pretty good mood until you brought up that stat. Actually, I lied. Thank you, Kawhi. I definitely was not in a good mood because the Detroit Tigers have really been harshing my mellow lately. And I understand that this whole time, the whole division race was a little bit of a fugazi. They were always a bad team. They were playing in a terrible division. But what they have done against the Oakland A's in the past 2 games, the worst team in all of Major League Baseball, by the way, has completely shaken my faith. I think there are very few reasons to even watch them the rest of the season. Maybe to watch guys like Tarek Skubal and Riley Green and maybe Spencer Torkelson if he could ever get back on track. But the idea that they're going to do anything in terms of winning the division or competing for the division or are in any sort of pennant race, I am officially calling it over today. This is officially the autopsy of the Detroit Tigers. The bottom line is, in the first game against the Oakland A's, when you get an outing like that from Tarek Skubal coming back from injury, going 4 innings, no hits, right, and then Reese Olson finishing it off, you have to win that game, not just for standings. At that point, you have to look at it as symbolic. It could have been a day of a lot of hope for the Detroit Tigers because Tarek Skubal was excellent. He looked as good as I've ever seen him pitch in my life. There seemed to be no ill effects from the injury except for the fact that he was on a pitch limit. And then Reese Olson, another guy who you hope can be a starter of the future, looked pretty much just as good. And they lost that game, and then that carried over into yesterday, losing a completely different way, giving up 12 freaking runs to the Oakland A's while only scoring 3.
Hey, Erod's back.
You know what? I'm not. This isn't a crap on Erod segment because he actually has pitched very well this season. I mean, obviously he wasn't very good yesterday, but at the same time, those are the type of games. Not yesterday. I mean, yesterday was the complete and utter death nail, but the 1-0 10-inning loss in which Tarek Skubal was excellent, Reese Olson was excellent, and the offense gave you nothing. It's over. And now we just have to look ahead to the future. It might death spiral from here. Who knows? But I wouldn't be shocked at all. Very, very disappointed.
Yeah, they dropped the first 2 games against the A's. And again, this is it's ironic because we just talked about this a couple days ago before this series started. They just came off a win, a 14-9 win. And then we go into this A series, and I'm talking to you, and I'm like, Sam, it's crazy to think, too, statistically on the season, they're just above them, the Tigers, over the A's, in RBIs, average, home runs, hits. Like, they're very similar. And the A's are the worst team in the MLB. So the whole Fugazi stuff with the Tigers, I think there's a lot of truth to that. But you kind of saw it play out yesterday. But it is what it is. It was fun while it lasted. But now they're about 6.5 games, and that the hopium that Tigers fans were snorting up their nose. There's no more left, Sam.
Well, and
There's no more.
yeah, and the reality of the situation too is I don't know if the Minnesota Twins are going to be as bad as people thought that they were going to be. It wouldn't shock me at all if they win anywhere from 85 to 90 games. They're on a bit of a winning streak right now. They're 2 games above 500. They have a couple Cy Young caliber pitchers in Sonny Gray and Bailey Ober. Carlos Correa, Byron Buxton, and Joey Gallo haven't played very well this season, but they could presumably heat up. You'd definitely expect it from Carlos Correa. So at this point, I think it's the Minnesota Twins division to lose, and the Tigers are officially done. They should have never been in a pennant race anyway because they're not good enough as a team, but there was a little bit of hope. I had a reason to watch for a while, but now losing 2 games against the sorry-ass Oakland A's, it's one of the more disappointing 2-game stretches I've witnessed as a Tiger fan, at least in the last 5 years. I haven't had a lot to cheer about, but this was just... This hurt, man.
It does hurt, but it feels good at the same time that everybody in the chat thread has now made their way into the stream. Shout out to Philip C. He's in here. Steve-O Baby, Jamcat. Again, Leo's here, and he just became a member. Welcome. Eric Allen, Jerome Duncan, Coach Walk 37, Big Show Picks, Lucian. We appreciate you guys. Jake as well. And then, of course, Booner, Funky as usual. So appreciate you guys for choosing us this morning. Could have been anywhere else. You're here with the Morning Woodward Show. I just sent something to you, Alex. Could you throw that up for me? And this is kind of ties into what we were talking about with the Tigers, but this just kind of overshadows everything in Detroit. CBS Sports put out this graphic. How disrespectful. How disrespectful. It's been a long time since Detroit has had success in the playoffs, it says, and it has all 4 franchises there. Yeah, cue the music. Cue the music. If it wasn't copyrighted, I'd tell you to turn on Marvin's Room in celebration of me going to Drake
Are
this
you
Sunday.
drunk right now?
Yeah. But you got, look at the Red Wings, last playoff win, 2013. Last Stanley Cup win, 2008, as we know. The Tigers, last playoff win, 2013. And last World Series title, 1984.
I mean, it's one thing for, like, us to put that out, but for them to just put Detroit on blast like that nationally, just
right, like
a little bit of a stinger.
That's not even like throwing shade. That's just throwing shade directly at you. It's not a stray or anything like that. Like, it's, hey, Detroit, here's your franchises. You suck.
Well, as the great Drake would say, I'm just saying it could be better. Yeah, you got me hooked on Marvin's Room.
Yeah, well, cue the music. Put it back up too. I want to read the other 2 just for people listening at home. They have the Pistons and Lions. Obviously, we know the Lions. We don't have to get in there. Last Super Bowl win, never. Wow, that's a charade right there. Last playoff win, 1991, and then you have the Pistons, obviously, last playoff win, 2008. Last NBA title, 2004. So, again, point of this graphic is, and they even put Eminem up there from 8 Mile, which I don't know how that has any relation to
because if anyone talks about Detroit, they have to bring up
Eminem.
I
mean, that's, I guess, what we have going for us is Eminem. But regardless, it's been a minute. It really has. And I guess real quick we'll have a conversation besides the Lions, because I feel like that's the easy one. Who breaks this streak first for a playoff win?
For a playoff win, I mean, probably the Detroit Red Wings, honestly. I know that they are still in on the Alex DeBrincat sweepstakes. I think with everything that the Red Wings have even done in this offseason, the expectation should still be playoffs. And if you get in, I mean, I'm not saying that, it's anybody's game by any stretch of the imagination, but if you're in, you have a chance. I don't think the Pistons are going to make it this year. That is not my expectation for them. And I just went on my spiel about the Detroit Tigers. They are done for this year. So give me the Detroit Pistons. I think they'll win.
You mean Red Wings or Pistons?
The Red Wings, my bad. Give me the Detroit Red Wings this upcoming season to at least win a couple of games in the playoffs. I don't know about a series. And obviously, we already know that the Detroit Lions, think about that, guys. The Detroit Lions are the city of Detroit's hope right now for present success for any of those teams. And the Detroit Lions are pretty much the worst franchise in the Super Bowl era in American team sports when it comes to so far their resume. And the Detroit Red Wings, they had a cup in 08. The Tigers went to a World Series in 12 and 06, and the Pistons won a championship in 04. And they're all largely irrelevant, and it's the Lions of all teams that are basically carrying the hopes of Detroit on their back. It's crazy times we live in, man, but you know what? As long as the Lions do well, I think I will be just fine. It will satiate my appetite for successful Detroit sports teams.
Wyatt says here, WoodwardSports.com, moved to the area in 2017 and only saw an SVG Pistons playoff appearance. Sad. Man, what an era, too. The SVG era. Well, Wyatt, I appreciate you for sharing that. And again, we all can relate to that. watching SVG, watching them sneak into the playoffs, but also knowing that they have no shot at the same time. And that's the worst feeling. And that's why I harp so much on what Stevie and Troy are doing, because I've experienced that. I've experienced sneaking into the playoffs, being excited you're there, and then getting smacked in the face. Like, I would much rather show up and be ready to at least not contend right away, but be taken serious. You don't want to be a team that nobody takes serious once you get in the playoffs. Like with Blake Griffin, Andre Drummond, Reggie Jackson, you knew those teams were cooked as soon as they got in. And that is the worst feeling. Lucian says, hope Eminem pops out for the Lions home opener. Yeah, that would be sweet. Steve Wild says, if we didn't have Eminem, Detroit has nothing. Well, I don't know about... we would take a hit. We would take a hit. I'll just say that. Let's see. Booner chiming in. 10 years since a playoff win in Detroit. Hopefully the Lions are the one to break that. And again, guys, for this poll here, I put in the chat, who wins a playoff game first besides the Lions? 80% choose the Red Wings, 16% have the Pistons, and 5% have the Tigers. I think that's
about right. I mean, that's kind of generous for the Tigers.
Yeah, 5%. And I would even say it's a little generous for the Pistons, too. 17%. It should be 99% Red Wings. But again, that poll makes perfect sense. JB, what do you think? Who breaks it first besides the Lions? Is it the Red Wings?
It's probably got to be the Red Wings. I have no hope in the Pistons to make it anytime within the next 2 to 3 years. So all my eggs are in the basket of the Red Wings. I'm just hoping for something, man.
And Gabby, there's not even a race, right? It's the Red Wings.
Yeah. It's the Red Wings.
That's fair. And Wyatt says here, this is a graphic we show when the next Detroit team clinches a playoff spot. And that's the exciting part, too, because as grim as it is, and you see these graphics, and we talked about it, I brought up one a couple days ago where it's been thousands of days since any of the franchises have won a playoff game, or won a playoff series, rather, for some of them. But then you look back, and you look at now and what you have. Despite graphics like that, Sam, the future is bright. I can't let that get away, because it's from Scott Harris, Troy, Steve, Brad, at least who's running, and the coaches as well, like Derek Lalonde, Monty Williams, AJ Hinch, and now Dan Campbell. This is probably the most confident in quite some time any Detroit sports fan has been about their respective franchises, from the top to the bottom.
No, and that is 100% fair. And with the Lions, you've obviously seen it in the win column, and I think you're going to see it more in the win column this upcoming year with Brad Holmes. I mean, with Steve Yzerman, too. As much as my expectations are for the Red Wings to make the playoffs, or it's a disappointment this year, you've at least seen some tangible improvement even in the win column. With Troy Weaver, not so much yet, but we obviously all approve of his draft picks of Cade Cunningham, Jay Linder, and Jaden Ivey. We think that is a pretty solid core. And with Scotty Harris, obviously the jury is still out, but I have my faith in him because of what he did with San Francisco, and the fact that Zach McKinstry and Matt Vierling have been fairly good signings, at least as of late. They're two of their best offensive players. Mm-hmm. I think the philosophy of Scotty Harris and being more of an analytical approach as opposed to the dinosaur of Al Avila and the corpse of Al Avila, I think he will be good as well. This is a time of hope for Detroit sports, but there's still, at least when it comes to the Pistons and the Tigers, they still have a long way to go. But the Lions, though, the Lions are right there. Let's just wait. Let's just hold on till football season. We will all be very happy, I promise.
And Sam, and this is super random, but I don't know who brought this up yesterday, but they compared Sam to Al Borland from Home Improvement.
Oh.
Alex, could you throw that up, the comparison, the side by side? Whoever dropped this comparison,
thank you.
I might have a Halloween costume for you, Sam.
You know what?
You might need to gain like 80 pounds, but this might be solid.
You shaved the beard.
Yes, that's how you thwart a plan, motherfuckers. Speaking of the Hangover, that's how you thwart a plan. Because I was looking a little grizzly, and I will admit that shaving is not very fun. Jeff, you understand that nobody likes to shave. It's like scraping your face with a razor in the morning is absolutely miserable. But this morning, I woke up extra early. I wanted to look extra fresh for the show, and I wanted to thwart a little bit of a plan. Some you can't, but I don't look like Al Borland anymore. I mean, no disrespect to Al Borland, but I think I got more of a baby face than he does, at least right now.
Yeah, that you shaving the beard was very timely, Sam. I can't. Jake says, don't do Al Borland like that.
Yeah. That's
Are
fine.
we disrespecting Al Borland is the question.
Good thing I'm confident now. Unlike when I was in my early 20s. All this stuff would have made me crumble and wilt like warm lettuce, but I'm feeling good right now. It's all good.
I'll tell you what. Although Sam isn't a big boy like Al Borland, JB, can you tell us about an actual big boy that we can go visit?
Yes, absolutely, because summer because it is summer and Strawberry Fest is back at Big Boy. Try the classic breakfast items like the strawberry hotcakes or the mouth-watering red velvet waffles. But if you're not feeling breakfast, you can always try the strawberry bacon chicken wrap or cool off with their refreshing summer splash salad. But don't leave without trying some dessert, because they have the very delicious classic strawberry pie, the deep fried vanilla Oreos, and of course the strawberry hot fudge cakes, and so much more at your local Big Boy.
How would you like to win not one, but 2 vehicles of your choice? One for you and one for your wife, your girlfriend, or your best bud. Get to Lady Jane's today for an award-winning haircut and automatically enter for your chance to win. Courtesy of Les Stanford Buick GMC of Ferndale. Lady Jane's, open 7 days a week, walk in anytime. It's wicked awesome.
You have an opinion?
Make sure it's seen and heard.
Jumper.
Tweet us, hop on the YouTube chat, slide in the DMS at Woodward Sports on all social media.
Welcome back to the Morning Woodward Show here at WoodwardSports.com. Thanks so much for tuning in this morning. Gabrielle D. Phillips, Jeff Iafrate, Sam Flannel here to get your Thursday, your Friday Junior started off right. Be sure to follow us on all social media at Woodward Sports. If you're watching on YouTube, like and subscribe. If you're watching on the website, check out our articles, previous clips, previous live episodes, and our merchandise. And tune back in at 11 a.m. for Big D Energy.
It's funny, Steve-O Baby says, Jeff, I was the one that said he looks like Al Borland. Shout out to you, Steve-O. Appreciate that comparison. You always have fun with it. Again, just to talk more about this Jamison Williams thing, because I saw this yesterday and we didn't really get a chance to talk about it because everybody's coming hard on Jamison Williams' paws. Coming hard down on him. And I don't think it's deserving. I don't. Yeah, AO on that. But I don't think it's deserving. Jamison Williams, it's been interesting, to say the least. Now, with his recovery, no one's really said anything. And then now when he comes back, now that he's suspended, and he's hanging out in Detroit, he's at gas stations late at night, everybody likes to criticize every single thing Jamison Williams does. To me, it's a little over the top. And I didn't really get a chance to speak to you, Sam, about it. The whole firework debacle. Like, it's 4th of July, and I get it's 1 a.m., and he's lighting off fireworks. And for those who don't know, JPP, who blew his finger off, or I believe it was 2 fingers off, when he was playing for the New York Giants, when he was messing around with fireworks. And everybody looks at that and thinks, no NFL player should be messing with fireworks, which, would you prefer them not to? Yes, I think that's fair. But are you going to stop them from messing with fireworks? No. They're grown men on the 4th of July. So
any human being is more than capable of blowing off their fingers when messing with fireworks. Just because you play football doesn't make you more susceptible to blowing off your fingers doing fireworks. You're more than capable of doing them safely.
Right. Everybody acts like every time you set a firework off, you're bound to blow a finger off or fingers. It can be dangerous, but millions and millions of people do it. And Jamison Williams, I know he's a professional athlete, so he's going to be put under a microscope for everything he does. But Sam, really? Fireworks on the 4th of July, people are butthurt.
Okay, so this is where I might alienate a lot of the audience and pretty much all of my coworkers. This to me is more than just about fireworks. This is about this idea that we've gotten into a space where you can't criticize Jamison Williams for anything, or else you're a hater who wants him shipped out of town and thinks he's a bust already. And that is 100% not true. I personally would rather he not put that out on social media. But at the same time, to me, it's about, why is everybody so defensive over Jamison Williams? It's one of the most maddening things I've ever seen in my life. I get it that he has all the potential in the world, and I think he is going to be great. But so far in his NFL career, he has 1 catch for 41 yards and 1 carry for 40 yards in 6 games. And I'll tell you what, guys, and I'm looking at the audience, I'm looking at every single person in this room. I understand when Jamison Williams was drafted, we knew he was coming in hurt. But if you would have been told before the season that he was going to play 6 games and have 2 touches for 81 yards, none of you would have accepted that. You guys would have all been like, what? I get the yards per touch is good, but go ahead, Jeff.
Well, I was going to say, if you would have asked me, I would have been like, well, I don't expect him to really play at all his rookie season. I think most people would agree with that.
Okay, but he played in 6 games.
It played how many snaps in each of those games? That'd be the interesting question, because it's not like he played from start to finish in every one of those 6 games.
And that's all well and good, but the reality of the situation is people act like Jameson Williams is already this untouchable superstar, and that is not the case whatsoever. To paraphrase one of my favorite movies of all time, Remember the Titans. Remember that scene when they were having that players-only meeting in the gym? And one of the guys, I think the character's name was Blue. And I'm going to paraphrase this when it comes to Jameson Williams. Y'all think he's done something? Man, he ain't done nothing, man. Nothing in the NFL. He has the same amount of receptions last year as Jared Goff and Penei Sewell. He had less receiving yards last year than Justin Jackson, Jamal Williams, Craig Reynolds, and Shane Zylstra. I get it that they played more games, but still, 6 games, 41 receiving yards. You all act like he's done something. When it comes to the NFL, he is irrelevant. He hasn't done nothing, man. Nothing. And for some reason, he's become like Teflon. And I'll tell you what, and I'm right on this, and you guys know that I'm right on this. If this was Aiden Hutchinson, God forbid if this was Aiden Hutchinson. I get he was the 2nd overall draft pick versus being the 13th overall pick overall. Here's what you guys would have said. Imagine if Aiden Hutchinson came in, played 6 games, maybe had 2 sacks, one of them being a sack fumble, and then I didn't even mention the gambling suspension, which the rules were murky, but still, he's not going to play even more games. He's going to have 6 more games, Jameson Williams, in which he is going to be out. If this was Aiden Hutchinson, all of you Michigan State fans in the audience and at this network would be like, oh, what's wrong? It's another Michigan man. Why'd you draft that Michigan man? You should have gone after Kayvon Thibodeau. But when it comes to Jameson Williams, you are not allowed to say anything critical about him whatsoever, and I don't get it. He has not earned that. He is not a superstar yet. In the grand scheme of the NFL, he is irrelevant. Do I think he's going to break out this year? Yes, but he's only going to get 11 games to do it. And even though the rules were kind of dumb, it's still partially his fault. Go ahead, Jeff.
Oh, I'll go. Because I'll let you spiel. I'll let you, try and speak your truth. But the reality is, why are you so, you're basing your judgment on, and I'll get to the whole everybody, trying to defend Jameson Williams, because I think there's more context to that. But if you're just talking about his rookie season, how in the hell are you going to pick apart the man's rookie season in a year we did not expect him to play, in a year he showed up the middle of the year when the Lions were winning games? They were winning with who they had. Jameson wasn't going to walk in and get all the touches. He knew he was going to come in, be eased in. Him and Jared didn't get to work out with each other before the season. So what were your expectations of Jameson Williams compared to mine and everybody else's?
Well, here's the thing.
Because that rookie season to me was a throwaway.
Okay, but you can't say that when he played 6 games. If he would have not played any games, that would be understandable.
Sam,
he had 1 catch.
But you're acting like he played a majority of the snaps in every one of those 6 games. He did not.
Okay, that's fine. But also I hear, oh my God, every time he touched the ball, he scored a touchdown. That's not factual, by the way. That's fucking false, by the way, and a fucking lie. But at the same time, all 2 of them. Oh, what about that one that was called back by penalty? Yeah, that was a great play, but the reality is it was called back by a penalty. It doesn't count in the grand scheme of things.
My question, though, is when the football was in his hands, what happened?
He was electric, but all 2 of them. All 2.
But that's not the question is when the football's in his hands. Now, we could talk about the rapport with him and Jared, but for Jameson and everybody defending Jameson, this is why I think everybody is defending him so hard, because if it was Aiden, and answer this question, if Aiden was letting those fireworks off, what do you think the narrative would be?
Because he showed something in his rookie year.
No,
he had a defensive rookie of the year level season.
Nothing.
So what? Nothing. Because he actually showed something.
He could have. He could have, and we don't know. We're not talking about it. The problem is the social media, which has always been the problem with Jameson Williams.
Right.
He needs to turn off his damn phone, which is a point that he made, and the only thing I'm agreeing with there. But at the end of the day, we would not be talking about this if it was Aiden Hutchinson, if it was any other player on the team.
No, Sam, he is wrongfully, now especially with all of Detroit media, wrongfully over talked about. Like for the stupidest things. Like who cares what again, you're comparing what Aiden did in his rookie season to what Jameson did. That's where you lose me. Like Aiden was healthy for the entire 17 games. He played. James Williams, we expect him not to play. So to compare those 2 in their rookie seasons is just it does not correlate.
Okay,
it doesn't.
Why is it the worst thing in the world? Why is it considered a persecution of him if you're just having a few questions?
It's not well, the question part I understand. What are we getting out of J-Mo this season when he comes back? Fair. But to analyze this dude because he's setting off fireworks on 4th of July And then if you want to bring up, well, he didn't prove anything. So is there a requirement to light off fireworks? I gotta get 1,000 yards before I can set some fireworks off on 4th of July?
Legally in the state of Michigan.
Like, what the hell?
But here's the reality of the situation. I know that JPP was a statistical anomaly, but if Jamison Williams blows off his fingers, his career is probably over. With JPP, you can play with a club on your hand and come back and be a very effective player anyway. But just imagine if something had gone terribly wrong. I mean, I hate to even think about it because the reality is I want Jamison Williams to come back and produce. And at this point, he owes it to everybody to actually go out and do it. Because if Jamison Williams comes back, and I'm not predicting this, by the way, and is just a guy that has a couple of big plays, maybe has 20 to 25 receptions for 350 to 500 yards, but a couple of those plays are big plays to win games, I'm still going to have people being like, you see, we got our Ferrari, we got our superstar, and that's just not the case. I need him to ball out and actually be a star. It's all of you people that act like he's already shown enough to get this kind of Teflon treatment. That's my problem. I don't necessarily even have a huge issue with the firework thing. It's this idea that anytime he does something and somebody says, you know, J-Mo, you should probably stay off social media. You know, even though the rules were a little bit murky, I wouldn't have done any gambling whatsoever. You're considered a hater. You want him out of town. You want him to be a bust. Who else would you want? I'm just asking questions. I'd be happy if next year he shuts my fucking mouth up. I'd be happy about that. I'd be happy if he looks at me and goes like, I am going to shut up this flannel wearing fuck next year. I hope that's what he says. I hope that's what he's thinking right now.
Oh, he's thinking that
100%.
And this is, again, I understand there's questions, but this is to act like Jameson can do no wrong. Okay. But to act like he's to talk about him and to criticize him, there's nothing there. Like, besides the betting, and if you disagree with that, fine. But besides that, what is there? We knew he was going to be hurt his rookie season.
Okay, but when he played, he wasn't effective.
But Sam, like, Amon-Ra St. Brown in his rookie season, when he was there, he barely produced. But what happens later in the season, when him and Goff got a better rapport, he produced his rookie season.
He did.
Jameson Williams, from not even catching a minimal amount of footballs before the season by Jared Goff, not even running routes, to being thrown in late in the season when the Lions are winning, how in the hell can you expect him to walk on the turf and produce? I mean,
wait a minute. So are you implying that the Lions maybe didn't need him? Maybe that pick might end up being a mistake. I'm just asking those questions.
No, it's not a mistake.
It better not be a mistake.
He's a stud.
He better be a superstar, or I'm going to keep talking about it. I'm sorry.
And there's not a huge sample size, Sam, but I don't know how you can't watch Jameson. Again, when the football was in his hands, that's the argument. That's his job. When the football's in his hands, make plays. He made plays when the football was in his hands. To what you're saying, in the 6 games, look at the snap count. How was he? He was clearly limited the first couple games he was back.
Fine.
And by that time, him and Goff didn't have any rapport. Goff was already closer and had a better rapport with Khalif Raymond, Josh Reynolds, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Brock Wright, everybody else. So you just expect Jameson to walk on? I mean, the guy's not Jesus. What do you expect him to do?
Well, you guys are treating him like Jesus right now, like he's just infallible, can't do anything wrong. Here's the question, though, Jeff, and I get that there's...
No, Flannel,
Okay,
honestly,
go ahead.
what did he do wrong here?
To me, it's more about putting everything out on social media. If he would have lit off fireworks, especially being under the scrutiny that he's under and nobody saw anything, that would be a different story. It's just, I think he's putting himself out there, opening himself up for criticism. And when people actually say a few things, because Jameson Williams hasn't shown much so far, I just don't like that you're not allowed to have any questions. That's my problem.
But any of these players with the roles that they're taking are opening themselves up to criticism, whether or not they just want to play the game or not. He's also, how old is he? 21, 22? Mm-hmm. 22 years old in this day and age on social media. I put a video of me doing fireworks this weekend up on my social media, and we don't see all of Detroit blowing up over it. I'm just another 24-year-old, same age group that puts a lot of shit on social media, and...
Sam, would you rather him be locked up in the basement catching footballs from a jugs machine?
No.
Or is he allowed to go outside
I don't,
and get fresh air?
That's not what I'm saying.
Okay.
And Gabby, to your point, and this is with the utmost respect, if you were to have a fireworks accident in which you were just maybe blew a couple of your fingers off, I would feel very, very bad for you. But you could still, I would feel horrible.
I could still do my job.
You could. And,
just a couple fingers.
And that's all I'm saying. Just Jameson Williams has earned this almost Prince level status in Detroit that I don't think he's deserved. He's being treated, people are treating him like, that's my baby, you can't talk about my baby. And I just don't think he's earned it. We're not being mean. We're just asking a couple questions. That's all.
And look, I want to read some of these comments because the people are chiming in here. Booner says, if Amon-Ra St. Brown put up that video, we would have zero worries, ?
Amon-Ra St. Brown has produced in the NFL, Booner.
But that's not, Sam, there isn't a requirement to light off fireworks. Like, what's your requirement? I would love to hear it. For players. What do you have to do in order to light fireworks on 4th of July?
It's not about the fireworks. It's about the fact that Jamison Williams is allowed to be criticized. You're allowed to not like some
Criticized about what? On the football field?
Yes.
This is all off the football field. Like the fireworks, the betting, his character issues. Like these stupid narratives that like aren't even related to him on the field. Like if you want to bring up the 6 games, which I just dissected a ton of holes in that argument, you can bring up the 6 games.
Yeah.
But I'm talking off the field. He is the most overanalyzed, overcritical, everybody's criticizing him in Detroit. He is. Like, and that's, am I off on that?
And you want to know what's sad? Is that now everyone's going to be talking about this fireworks BS over the fact that he's hosting this free youth football camp.
Yeah, that goes under the radar.
Like, that's now, no one's talking about that and him doing that good thing. They're all talking about all this other noise, and it's completely overshadowing the good that he's done and that he's trying to do, and that I applaud him for doing, especially at his age.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up because when you see things like that's my point and that's my problem, which she just said, because people will talk about the fireworks, they'll talk about his character, even though I mean Antoine Randall just poked holes in the character stuff. You could go check out what he said. But in the meantime, he's hosting youth camps for kids in Detroit. Like that stuff just kind of slides under the radar. But everybody has a problem with him lighting off fireworks legally on 4th of July.
Lighting off fireworks, getting a gambling suspension, only having the same amount of catches in his career as gambling suspensions. That's what people have problems with. This youth football camp, that's a great thing. That is a genuinely great thing.
If you set up fireworks at 1 a.m. or you bet on FanDuel, do you lose talent?
No.
Yes or no? Okay.
No,
so
you
the
don't.
talent doesn't leave his body.
But has his talent shown really much anything on the field? I would argue no.
Well, if I'm basing talent off when the football's in his hands, I would disagree with that.
Well, get the football in your hands more for Jamison Williams. That's all I ask.
You know what? I love it. And again, we're going to go to break when we get back. I want to bring up his other wide receiver playing on the other side, which is Amon-Ra St. Brown, and where he ranks in man coverage. And we're going to get to that, where Amon-Ra will finish at the end of this upcoming NFL season. But before we do that, Gabby, could you tell us about our friends over at Randy Wise?
Yeah, Randy Wise is where you can go and get yourself into a celebrity-level vehicle. And right now, you can check out the first episode of the Randy Wise Celebrity Golf Tour at woodwardsports.com or on our YouTube page, featuring Jim Harbaugh. Yes, Jim Harbaugh is our first celebrity guest for the tour, and head on down to your local Randy Wise dealership today and make the wise choice.
By now you know me, Christina Gennari, as the obvious choice in real estate. And you know my website, soldchristina.com, as your #1 resource for buying or selling your home. Myself, along with my amazing staff, pride ourselves on making your home buying and selling experience a relaxing and easy one. Come see why we are the obvious choice. Christina Gennari at soldchristina.com, the obvious choice in real estate.
We don't like to brag that we are the toughest sports network in Detroit.
But we do have a guy named Darren McCarty on our side.
Woodward Sports.
Back to the Morning Woodward Show here at woodwardsports.com. Thanks so much for tuning in this morning. Come back around at 11 a.m. for Big D Energy, 2 p.m. for Ermanni and Edwards with Maz, and 5 p.m. for the Woodward Heavyweights. We're here every Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. to bring you Detroit sports coverage and more. And maybe tomorrow we'll talk about some explosives in Wimbledon, just because that seems to be two hot topics for everyone today.
Jake says on woodwardsports.com, let's not act like the guy wasn't one of the most electric prospects in years. I know there can be a transition, but he's the guy you saw and was like, this guy's playing on Sundays. He was the guy you saw and was like, hey, this guy's playing on Sundays.
Yeah, and to be fair, his last season at Alabama was one of the best seasons I've ever seen by a college wide receiver. Just how electric he was, that's all well and good. And I truly believe that when he comes back, he is going to play great. I do, just for the record.
You just don't think he's absolved completely from criticism?
Yes.
I just think the criticism off the field is not rightfully deserved. That's all. Some of the stuff, it's a little over the top at this point. I mean, the dude's going to get driven out of Detroit. But regardless, I want to talk about Amon-Ra St. Brown. And PFF came out with an article ranking their best wide receivers in man coverage, highest graded wide receivers. And you're going to love to see who came out on top here. Amon-Ra St. Brown, tied with number 1 with a receiving grade against man coverage of 90.8. And you know who he's tied with?
I believe he was a little bit ahead of, right?
Yeah, well, at least the grade, he's just under. It's
Yes.
0.1,
Yes.
but essentially tied, but just in front of Jamar Chase and CeeDee Lamb, who are actually tied for second.
Yep.
So Amon-Ra St. Brown leads both of those receivers, which funny, CeeDee Lamb's in here, who I made the argument, and we went through this last week at Dispo. He was ranked, 14 spots ahead on Amon-Ra St. Brown on wide receivers or players, top 25, under 25, whatever it was. Ridiculous. And here you have a wide receiver in Amon-Ra who's better in man coverage, which I think that is the most important stat for wide receiver. Man on man, get open.
I was about to say, what's the most important thing you can do as an NFL wide receiver? Beat your man one-on-one. And Amon-Ra St. Brown last year, by these numbers, did that better than any wide receiver in the NFL. Last year, when Jared Goff targeted Amon-Ra St. Brown one-on-one, Jared Goff had a 127.7 passer rating, which is absolutely absurd. And look at who Amon-Ra St. Brown is above when it comes to this. He's above Jamar Chase, who is a guy that I think Amon-Ra St. Brown is chasing when it comes to the wide receiver rankings. He's above A.J. Brown. He's significantly ahead of even Justin Jefferson and Tyreek Hill. Just wrap your heads around that. Of all those great wide receivers, for which there are many, I didn't even mention Devontae Adams, Amon-Ra St. Brown reigns supreme when it comes to wide receivers against man coverage. And Jeff, you'd be happy to know, and I did a little bit of digging, it's not just against man coverage. And this is according to PFF, by the way. Amon-Ra St. Brown was the second highest graded wide receiver by PFF, period, in the NFL. Not just against man coverage, and that just shows that he's more than just a man coverage merchant. He is a complete wide receiver. He is one of the best wide receivers in the NFL, and the only receiver last year that was ranked higher than him was Tyreek Hill. And Tyreek Hill only had 1,700 yards last year, was already a great future gold jacket wide receiver who had the best season of his life. That was the only one who PFF graded higher than Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Pretty good.
So I'm thinking, at least with these numbers, with how he produced, with how much he produced despite missing a game, Amon-Ra St. Brown can really start to climb the ranks of the wide receivers in the next couple of years. I mean, would it shock you next year if he had maybe 120 catches for 1,400 yards?
No.
It wouldn't shock me.
No, it wouldn't. And to this comment too, Funky chiming in, he says, I thought Sam was about to say the most important thing a wide receiver could do is not light fireworks.
Oh, my God.
Is that part of your qualifications?
So Amon-Ra St. Brown had 105 more catches last year than Jameson Williams. Those are factual numbers, and about 1,120 more yards than Jameson Williams.
Just to stay on Amon-Ra St. Brown, because I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. We just got out of it.
We just spent an entire second on it.
Yeah, but I just want to point out too, it's crazy that the receivers that are ranked behind him, like you have Jamar Chase, CeeDee Lamb, you mentioned A.J. Brown, Mike Williams, who you'd think in man coverage is an absolute beast.
Yeah, I think we all agree that Amon-Ra St. Brown is better than Mike Williams.
Oh, of
overall.
course,
Yes.
of course. But I just thought man coverage with Mike Williams is what, 6'4"?
Yeah.
I mean, and Amon-Ra is a little undersized, not the fastest guy, and still he's better than all these receivers, at least in man coverage. And I would say some of them just overall I would agree with. But even Jamar Chase against man coverage, I mean, you have the help Jamar Chase has, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, you're getting thrown footballs by Joe Burrow, and you have a slightly less grade against man coverage. Like, to me, that's the most impressive part. Amon-Ra St. Brown has a better grade with less talent and a worse quarterback.
Well, think about last year what Jamar Chase was working with. He had Joe Burrow as his quarterback, who to me is the second best quarterback in the NFL. His number 2 wide receiver was T. Higgins, and his number 3 wide receiver is Tyler Boyd. And when you look at the situation that Amon-Ra St. Brown was in last year, his quarterback was Jared Goff, who's very serviceable, but he's not Joe Burrow. The second leading receiver on the Detroit Lions last year, believe it or not, was Khalif Raymond. And he was working with guys like even Josh Reynolds, who are fine, but they're not Tyler Boyd and T. Higgins. So presumably Jamar Chase was feasting on man coverage all season. So that makes it all the more impressive that Amon-Ra St. Brown in man coverage was graded out, according to PFF, higher than anybody. I think we're almost underrating how excellent that is. And that, to me, among other things, of course, with the season that he's had, especially even when you count this season and the last 6 games of 2021 when Ben Johnson really took some of the reins, Amon-Ra St. Brown, he maybe has that ceiling to be a first-team All-Pro someday. I'm not calling for it, but I wouldn't bet against him.
So Amon-Ra St. Brown last year ranked 11th in receiving yards at 1,161. Fouled that up also with the receptions, which the most impressive part, I think, of Amon-Ra St. Brown's game. He had 106 receptions, which is up there. Only Justin Jefferson, Tyreek Hill, and Stephon Diggs, and Travis Kelce, obviously, had more receptions. My question is, by the end of the season, I would say Amon-Ra is a top 10 receiver right now. Where can he get to? You just mentioned the possibility. What if he comes out this year, has well over 100 catches, which he will, for 1,400 yards? Where can Amon-Ra St. Brown rise to in the wide receiver rankings in the NFL right now? What do you think?
What he's capable of, to me, and I know I mentioned that Aiden Hutchinson yesterday is the most likely to me to make an All-Pro this year. I think Amon-Ra's ceiling is second-team All-Pro. I don't think he's going to be looked at and have a better season than guys like Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Tyreek Hill, or A.J. Brown, or Devontae. I mean, he could even pass A.J. Brown or Devontae Adams or anybody like that, but he could certainly sneak onto the second-team All-Pro, maybe take the spot that last season was occupied by CeeDee Lamb. Would that shock you? I think you believe that Amon-Ra St. Brown is better than CeeDee Lamb, and to me, it's a toss-up. It's how do you want it? Which one do you want? So I think second-team All-Pro is where he could potentially rise this year, and maybe someday, and I'm not calling for this, have that superstar-type year where he maybe even enters the first team, a la like a Cooper Kupp did.
And I can't wait, too, and this is kind of goes back to Jameson. Despite whatever you think of Jameson, you know the dude has talent, as in he has explosive speed. We know what he can do when the football's in his hands, but it's not even just when the football's in his hands, just being on the field, what that means for the rest of the receivers, what his speed can do for any offense. I can't wait to see Amon-Ra St. Brown with more talent, because that's something that for Amon-Ra, although the receptions have always been high, production has always looked good, and he got 900 yards in the second half of his rookie season. Not the entire, he really barely played the first majority of his rookie season, turned it up in the second half when Ben threw him into the offense and Ben took over. But regardless, I think Amon-Ra by the end of the season, if you look at receptions, you look at his class, he's up there in receptions, and I'm talking Jalen Waddle, the best in his class, but more than that, receiving yards. This year, Stephon Diggs, if you look at yards, at least in the NFL, it goes Justin Jefferson, Tyreek Hill, last year I'm talking about, Devontae Adams, A.J. Brown, Stephon Diggs, CeeDee Lamb. Now, CeeDee Lamb had 1,350 yards last season, so clearly more productive. But I think this season, Amon-Ra St. Brown is going to be in the 1,300 to 1,400 range right here, which would put him about top 5, top 6 in the NFL. So I think Amon-Ra right now is a top 10 receiver. But if we're talking upside and what he can be, there's no doubt in my mind he can rise as far as top 6, top 7, because there's guys that I wouldn't move. I mean, Justin Jefferson, Tyreek Hill, Devontae Adams, A.J. Brown, Stephon Diggs. These guys, to me, are the premier wide receivers in the NFL. I think Amon-Ra St. Brown can get there, but next season, I think he'll be just behind those guys. Because tell me, besides those guys, we're in the conversation of CeeDee Lamb, Terry McLaurin, Jalen Waddle. I think that the drop-off is very close from those guys to Amon-Ra St. Brown. Maybe not right now he's above them, but I think soon enough he will be.
So with that, do you think that he's receiving an appropriate amount of hype from the media with all the other names that you're listing, and you saying that he's almost right there with all of them? I feel like his name is not in the conversation enough in terms of his playing and his playing ability. It's more about that chip on his shoulder, I feel like, than anything for the narrative that he's getting from the media overall.
Yeah, and that's the thing. He doesn't get all the publicity because he's not the most marketable guy nationally. He doesn't have a huge personality. He's about work ethic, which I love, actually. I love Amon-Ra. I think he fits Detroit. I think locally he's recognized. Nationally, I think people are coming around a little slower. But regardless, you can't deny the man if he comes out this year and puts up 1,400 yards. Like, you can't. Now, CeeDee Lamb playing for the Cowboys, America's team, he'll get all the publicity just for playing for the Cowboys. Amon-Ra has to do, unfortunately, a little more to be put on the map, but he will be. We've seen receivers do it, but it took Calvin Johnson to do it, which, Hall of Famer. So I think Amon-Ra will get the respect he deserves because he works too damn hard. Like, his work ethic, again, catching, 200 footballs after practice, like, these things, I think, it'll add up to the point where he gets his respect.
Yeah.
He will.
Yeah.
He's too damn talented.
Well, and that's the thing about Amon-Ra St. Brown. I think that, and this is maybe a little bit unfair, when you're more of a slot receiver, when you're kind of more of a possession type that averages about 11 yards per catch, you're going to have to put up more eye-popping numbers to get the kind of national respect. I mean, like I said, if he puts up like 120, 125 receptions for between 1,400 and 1,500 yards, he is not going to be able to be denied. But he's not as much, I would say, fun fun to watch. It doesn't
Flashy.
Flashy is like Tyreek
Yes.
Hill, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, or anything
Actually,
like that.
that's a great point. And that's actually a great
Yeah.
point. That's probably more so why he's not as nationally recognized,
Yeah.
because he's not flashy. He doesn't have those, jump over a corner or safety, one-handed catch. These guys that pop up on NFL Instagrams and all their highlight reels. Amon-Ra may not do that yet, but again, what do you judge a wide receiver by? Catches, yards, and getting open.
Yes.
He does all three of those at a pretty high level. So I think he's elite, or he will be elite very soon. But people, again, it's the shock factor. It's the CeeDee Lamb, the one-handed catches. It's, Devonta Smith, what he did, the one-hand catches, or he's starting to. Like, these guys all have those highlight reels. I think Amon-Ra St. Brown, if you love the game of football, you respect his talent. Like, you can't deny it.
I mean, 100%. And to kind of put a bow on this, and you're going to laugh because you guys are going to think I'm a Jameson Williams hater. Jameson Williams actually has the kind of game that if he were to really break out next year and become that superstar, he might even get more national recognition than Amon-Ra St. Brown. Is that necessarily fair? No, but Amon-Ra St. Brown, I hate to use this analogy because he's so much better than that, or this comparison, but Amon-Ra St. Brown is kind of that hard hat lunch pail type guy, but that on steroids, like the employee of the year for the entire United States of America, because he is that, but he's turned into a star. Being a 4th round pick, what he's done in his first couple seasons is one of the more unbelievable rises I've seen from a lower round draft pick in Detroit Lions history. I can't think of an example quite like it off the top of my head.
And we're going to get into who's the X factor for the Lions season. 33rd team came out with their selection for all the NFC North teams. I want to get your guys' reaction to that. Amon-Ra St. Brown to me is like insurance, but is he like Swiss insurance, Sam? Is he that reliable?
I mean, he's right up there.
Okay,
but
he's
I gotta show love to Swiss Insurance as well. And now that summer's here, it is important to make sure you are properly covered. Whether it's a grad party or just a group of people over to enjoy the lake or pool, your liability exposure increases significantly in summertime. Let the Swiss Insurance Group review your coverage and make sure you are protected from an unexpected loss. Check us out at swissins.com or call Mark today at 248-800-4177. Again, that is 248-800-4177, Swiss Insurance.
At work and at home, we're there with smarter security solutions. Featuring complete automation with customized alerts and more. For over 90 years, we've been the company that's been counted on to protect what matters most, all with personalized service and care. Right now, for a limited time, receive a free video device plus free installation with a new home system. Guardian Alarm. We protect Michigan.
Woodward Avenue, the first paved road in America.
Woodward Sports,
The first sports network born in Detroit.
and made for Detroit.
Welcome back to the Morning Woodward Show here at woodwardsports.com. Thanks so much for tuning in this morning. If you're watching on YouTube, like and subscribe. If you're listening via podcast, download this episode and leave a 5-star review, and go and follow us on all social media at Woodward Sports.
I saw this yesterday, the X factor for all NFC teams. And Alex, can you throw this up for me? And it's not just the Lions, it's all NFC teams. And we'll see how accurate this is. This is per 33rd team. And one of them, and I don't want to spoil the Lions one because I don't know if people will be shocked or they'll agree with it. So I'll share my thoughts on it. But it also has NFC North teams and other teams. But before we see it, Sam, who would you assume the X factor is for the Lions? Who should it be, in your opinion, before I show this graphic? And feel free to comment down below, too. Who's your X factor? Who needs to play well for the Lions? Besides Jared, I feel like that's the obvious one.
Well, let me give this caveat because I already know the answer, but I swear to all of you and to you, Jeff Iafrate, that I did not look at this graphic before I gave my initial answer as I was kind of looking over the prep last night. James Houston. And as you will see in just a couple of seconds, look who it is. None other than James Houston. I promise I didn't look at it. I didn't cheat.
So, when I first see this, by the way, and this is the inconsistent part that I'm kind of frustrated with, if quarterbacks are involved, there's more teams that deserve their quarterbacks more of an X factor. Like, you have Jordan Love for the Packers, we have Darnell Mooney for the Bears. JB, our resident Bears, you speak for him, even though you're not a fan of the Bears, but you speak for the Bears. Is Darnell Mooney going to make or break the Bears season?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I don't even know
if they
why
put
he's up
DJ
there.
Moore, maybe I'd agree.
Yes, DJ Moore, but Darnell Mooney? Like, who made this?
Yeah. Go on.
To kind of defend it, though, DJ Moore is clearly the wide receiver number one. Darnell Mooney's a guy that nobody sees as number one, but he's had an 1,000-yard season before.
Yeah, he's not bad, but X Factor.
I don't hate it. I think Darnell Mooney is one of the X factors. I know I'm going against everyone in the room, but Darnell Mooney, if he's that reliable second wide receiver, especially since there are rumblings about one Chase Claypool that we've all heard about, and especially with how terrible he played when he was with the Bears last year, Darnell Mooney, I think that's a pretty appropriate choice, but maybe that's just me.
And also you have, and you can throw that list back up, Alex. And guys, feel free to chime in. James Houston, is he the X factor? If not, who is it? But here you have Jordan Love. We'll go through the NFC North teams. We'll stick there before we get to the NFL. So you have Darnell Mooney for the Bears. I hate that. It should be Fields. Like, that's the obvious one. If Fields plays really well, then the Bears have a good season. If he plays like trash, they don't. So that's an X factor to me. I don't think Darnell Mooney's production is going to make or break. Again, they play a ball-dependent position. If Darnell doesn't play well, who's throwing him the football? It's Justin Fields. So, like, by that metric, it's not Mooney. James Houston, though, for the Lions, actually we'll save him for last because we'll actually have a discussion about him. Jordan Love for the Packers, fair, I would say. Yeah, it's got to be on Jordan Love.
Nobody knows if he's good or not, so that's fair.
Fair. And then for the Vikings, I love this. Ezra is how you pronounce his name. Ezra Cleveland, who's the guard for the Vikings, and Ingram, who, what? That's the X factor for the Vikings.
Yeah, no.
What? Why?
I mean, maybe.
Who the fuck is that guy?
Well, I mean, to create a good offensive line with Christian Darrisaw still there, I understand that to some extent, but at the same time, when it comes to the Vikings,
it's basically the offensive line.
Yeah.
It's Ed Ingram and Ezra Cleveland who's both on the Vikings offensive line. So that's what they're saying essentially.
I mean, but wouldn't you pick someone on the defense? Because the defense, I mean, I would maybe pick someone like Byron Murphy or Marcus Davenport, who I've hated on quite a bit for his half-sack season last year. But maybe he bounces back. I just think the defense is the weak point of the Minnesota Vikings. I think their offense is actually going to be relatively okay. So I don't necessarily like that pick for the Vikings.
So we'll go to the Lions now, and people are chiming in here, and I'll read some of these comments before I get to our thoughts on James Houston being the X factor. Steve says it's X factor, not most important player. Jeff says Houston is an X factor. He's the difference in Hutch having help or the Lions having a bottom tier pass rush. Bob Johnson says by your matrix, Jeff, then Houston shouldn't be our X factor. And again, for this list specifically, James Houston, him as the X factor, meaning this guy, if he shows up, it changes the Lions season. That's fair. That's fair. Because again, Aiden, to that point, for him to get help, you'd assume the only one on the defensive line that has that type of potential right now is James Houston. Mm-hmm. Those two led the rookie, both of them led the rookies in sacks. They produced together. When James Houston arrived, what it did for Aiden last season was immeasurable. So I understand that. But I don't, again, to me, the quarterback should always be the X factor, but that's not no fun. You want to have fun. Like, I feel like besides Jared Goff, it has to be Houston. I'm not mad at that at all.
I feel like with all of these lists, I end up going and looking at the article to see, like, if the writer, the author, decides to give a reason as to why they're choosing these individuals as the X factor. And this is the intro to the article. There are plenty of things that can help you see what will help an NFL team have success. Then there are things that are more of an unknown, often referred to as an X factor. Those X factors can have a huge impact in a league where the separation between teams is thin. Since they're so important, we've decided to list one from every team.
Yeah, well, I guess by that definition, then Houston, that's fair, I would say. Because
you
if
can't
Houston...
figure out why...
Yeah, the why makes sense for Houston. If he plays really well, that would, again, separate. Now you have a way better defensive line than – because we imagine it's going to be good, but if Houston's that dude and both of those guys are putting up damn near double-digit sacks, yeah, you got a defensive line. Well, so I agree with that. But also you can make the argument, Sam, for a team that had one of the worst secondaries in the league last year, it could be a secondary player.
It could be a secondary player, and I understand that, especially with how revamped they are. I think one of them might stand out from the rest and make the secondary take a huge leap from last season. But I actually think James Houston is the perfect pick, and I have some numbers to back that up. Last season, James Houston had one of the most shocking, great rookie seasons I think I've ever seen. 8 sacks in 7 games is such a statistical anomaly, so absurd that I don't even think we can wrap our heads around just how great he was, how much of a flash in the pan that he was. And also, when it comes to the Detroit Lions, the Lions were 5-2 in games that James Houston played, which was the last 7, 4-6 in games in which he didn't play. Even more telling, when James Houston played, the Lions allowed 20.7 points per game in the last 7 games. And when James Houston did not play, they allowed 28.2 points per game. So James Houston presumably might have been one of the biggest differences in a couple of wins at the end of the season. But when it comes to James Houston, even though he was so great last year, even though he put up just such a mind-boggling season, I still think there's a little bit of unknown of what he is actually going to be when he gets more consistent snaps, when he plays a full season. Because if he continues this pace, that's almost impossible. Then he becomes one of the best, then he becomes prime Lawrence Taylor, one of the best edge rushers who ever played the game. Or he could take a step back and become more of what he is, maybe get the same amount of sacks in a full season. I know you, JB, I gotta point you out because you actually said that James Houston is one of the more likely Detroit Lions to be an all-pro next year. I mean, do you think that James Houston is going to be that guy that maybe has like 13, 14 sacks when he gets to play a full season? Is that your rationale?
Yes, absolutely. I told you guys this yesterday. James Houston, I see him up there as an X Factor.
You're smiling over there.
All pro. It's all coming together now,
Look at
Voice of reason.
This diabolical plan JB has.
I knew this was all going to come together, but it also helps that Aiden's going to be on the opposite side of him, getting the quarterbacks to come to James Houston's side as well to get those sacks. So he definitely wants to improve as much as he can this offseason. I think it's going to show during the season as well, too, what he's learned. And from the coaching staff as well, too. They're all behind him. So it's James Houston, all pro. It's all coming together.
And I love some of these comments, too. Funky says you can literally say the game numbers to Josh Pascal, too. People sleep on Pascal too much. And that's another interesting player. And we talked about that. Your underrated player that could break out this season, is still Josh Pascal because he's drafted in the second round. And you didn't get to show a lot last year. But if you talk about X Factor, as in if he plays well, and again, James out of the rest of the defensive line clearly has the highest upside. He showed what he could do, so I get why he's the X Factor. But there's a ton of guys you can name. Eric Allen mentioned it here. Pascal or Ozarike are my X Factors. Unknowns, and if healthy, both have the upside to turn this D-line into something we haven't seen in a long time.
Yeah, I don't know if Levi Onwuzurike is somebody that can give you enough upside to be an X Factor.
Because you really don't know what he is.
You really don't know, especially since he's had injuries. He was at one point a higher ranked prospect. He was drafted higher than Aleem McNeil. So that shows that maybe he can be a serviceable defensive tackle. I think if Levi Onwuzurike is a rotational piece on the defensive line, that it's a win for the Detroit Lions. Maybe not worthy of a second overall pick, but given the fact that we don't know what we're going to get from him, we're kind of fearing with the injuries we might get nothing. That is a win. I would say another name when it comes to the defensive line, maybe John Kaminsky. That's another one that I'm thinking of. The Lions, I mean, we talk about the record when James Houston played. When John Kaminsky played, I think they won all of their 9 wins. John Kaminsky played, and he was one of their most effective pass rushers last year. I believe he was 3rd on the team after James Houston with 4. So he's another one.
It's crazy to think about where in the beginning of the season, John Kaminsky to now.
Yeah.
It's like but you're not a fan of the folk heroes, though. John Kaminsky, TK.
Okay, but John 4 sacks, 8 receptions. I think 4 sacks is a little bit more important than winning all 9 games when he played.
Hey, when you needed John Kaminsky, he was there. When you needed Tom Kennedy, he was there.
Oh, 8 receptions. Big. Let's all clap for Tom Kennedy.
You needed all 8 of those receptions from Tom Kennedy.
Let's all give a round of applause. I mean, by that logic, he had 8 times the receptions of Jamison Williams. I don't want to.
With that comment, why don't you just tell us about our friends over at Planet Fitness?
Of course I will. And if I need to get a little bit bulkier to fight off all the haters because I said some mean things about Jamison Williams, I go to Planet Fitness, of course, because Planet Fitness is home of the judgment-free zone, where anyone, and we mean anyone, can feel comfortable and work on their fitness goals. We are here to help you build a lasting active lifestyle. At Planet Fitness, You will experience a squeaky clean gym that has tons of equipment, a full body workout in just 30 minutes in the 30-minute circuit, and all memberships include fitness training. You get all of this for only $10 a month. Yes, still only $10 a month. And your fitness is essential, and fitness is key part of the physical and mental wellness, which is why we have invited teens between the ages of 14 through 19 to work out free all summer long with our high school summer pass program, a great thing that Planet Fitness is doing. Join today in club or online, or visit planetfitness.com. It's Planet Fitness, where your fitness is essential.
Ooh.
Big Boy Strawberry Fest has officially arrived, and we're here to show you the very best flavors of the season. Satisfy your sweet tooth with our deep-fried vanilla Oreos, strawberry hot fudge cake, and a slice of our classic strawberry pie. But that's not all. Cool off on a refreshing summer splash salad, or savor the flavors of our chicken Caesar wrap and strawberry bacon chicken wrap. And for breakfast lovers, don't miss out on our strawberry hotcakes or our mouth-watering red velvet waffle. Strawberry Fest is something for everyone. Celebrate the sweet season with us at Big Boy.
We are the network for Detroit.
By Detroiters.
Welcome to the Woodward Sports Network.
Your childhood may be over, but certainly playtime is not. At Outdoor Equipment Company, you have your source for outdoor power equipment, whether it's sales, service, and parts, carrying top brands such as Bad Boy, LS Tractor, Stihl, and much more. I mean, they're servicing the Great Lakes region with locations in Metro Detroit and Greater Lansing. So for more information, visit them at OutdoorEquipCo.com. Outdoor Equip Company, your power equipment playground. Welcome back. It's the Morning Woodward Show here on the Woodward Sports Network. Jeff Iafrate, Sam Flannel, JB, Gabby, and Alex, all joining you on this wonderful Thursday morning. I have this NFL quarterback tier list I found on CBS yesterday, and I want to get everybody's reaction to it because Jared Goff was mentioned in this, of course. But the question is, where was he mentioned? There's multiple tiers that CBS laid out for you, and I'll read them, and we can get a prediction of where you think they are. So, Tier 1 is the big three. It's the elite guys, okay? So, whether you think he's in there or not, just stay with me. Tier 2 could join them next year, meaning Tier 2, those guys are on the brink of being elite, just under elite. And then there's Tier 3, intrigue with question marks, guys that are talented, may have question marks, still have to answer some questions this season. And then there's Tier 4, which is you can win with them. Pretty simple. They're your quarterback. You can win games with them. But again, you're going to need a lot of talent to do that as well. So Jared Goff is somewhere in this list, and I'll go through each tier one by one and give you where they have each quarterback at. So Tier 1, the big three, Mahomes, Burrow, Allen. Any problem with that? That's Tier 1.
Absolutely, there's a debate. Patrick Mahomes should have a tier by himself. I know everyone's going to say that's a hot take. He has 2 MVPs, 2 Super Bowl MVPs. He is the best quarterback in the game by such a wide margin that he should have a tier by himself. And that's not a hot take, by the way.
So they did write in this article, and again, this article is by Will Brinson. He comments when he was talking about Tier 1, he mentions that Mahomes is clearly number 1, and I wouldn't even be opposed to giving him his own tier.
There you go. Smart man. Should have done it.
But I think Burrow and Allen are close enough behind to warrant this designation. If your team has one of these guys, you believe the Super Bowl is winnable, even if things don't go, or even if things go wrong for your franchise. I think that's fair. Although I wouldn't put him in the same category. I agree with you. Mahomes, I'm taking every single day and twice on Sundays over Burrow and Allen, but I get why they're in the same tier. So we'll go to Tier 2. Could join them next year, meaning just below elite. Almost elite, but not quite on the same tier as those guys. Who Justin has... Will Brinson has in this tier is Justin Herbert, Lamar Jackson, Trevor Lawrence, Jalen Hurts. So guys that could join the top tier guys next season. Any problems with that so far? Justin Herbert, Lamar, Trevor, Jalen.
See, I have one glaring problem out of all of them, and that's Lamar Jackson. Because Lamar Jackson, as much as he is a dynamic quarterback, as much as he has been a very, very good regular season quarterback in terms of team success and individual success, he has regressed every year since his one MVP, which was a phenomenal year. And Lamar Jackson is a terrible playoff quarterback. Look at those numbers. 3 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, has never had a good playoff game. And that, I think, is a knock against him. I don't think he can ever be the elite of the elite. I think the best that Lamar Jackson can do is be a future Hall of Famer, be known as one of the better and more dynamic regular season quarterbacks of maybe not of all time, but in that Hall of Fame tier with that MVP and be known as the best running quarterback ever. But Lamar Jackson is never going to be elite. I'm sorry. He had his chance in 2019 and it's gone a little bit downhill since.
Well, I don't agree with that because, again, for Lamar, and you want to base it off playoffs, which, okay, fair.
Horrible.
And again, hasn't been the greatest, but even Trevor Lawrence, although he won the game, he didn't have a great playoff game. He threw 4 interceptions in the first half, still came back and won the game, but it's not like these guys are lighting up the playoffs. Herbert did have a great playoffs, but he was all right. And then Jalen Hurts made the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So I think the point they're making is Lamar's the only guy in this tier that has an MVP. So if you want to do that, we could go there too. Like Trevor Lawrence, Herbert, and Hurts don't have an MVP. Lamar does. And I wouldn't say he'll never be elite. That's kind of the stretch. I mean, Lamar is how many years has he been in the NFL? Handful?
He's been in there. He was in the same draft class as I believe, was that the Baker Mayfield,
Yes,
Josh Allen one?
it was.
So not very long.
But regardless, he's in this tier. So you have a problem with Lamar, but that's tier 2, could join them next year. So we'll see what Lamar does. And Jalen Hurts, in my opinion, should be a little higher, but I also understand because he's had 1 year, technically, and he made a Super Bowl, but I get why they have him tier 2. He's right on the brink, and I agree with that. Now, tier 3. Intrigue with question marks. Quarterbacks that are intriguing but still have question marks to answer. Aaron Rodgers, Stafford, Tua, Fields, Jones, Watson, and Wilson. Okay? And I have a problem with this list because intrigue with question marks. I don't think Aaron Rodgers and Stafford, I agree with. Tua, I agree with. Russell Wilson, Deshaun Watson, I agree with. Why the hell is Fields and Jones in here?
I mean, I am okay with Justin Fields being on this list because Justin Fields, he's such a dynamic athlete, and to be fair or not, he didn't have what you would call a good season last year, but he showed some promise. The offense did look pretty good under him in some spots, and he played with a terrible offensive line and a bad wide receiving core. He didn't have a whole lot around him, so I could see with the additions of DJ Moore and guys like Nate Davis on the offensive line, we'll see. Daniel Jones, though.
Yeah, I guess that's the bigger
Jones.
Fish to fry is Daniel Jones. Justin Fields, and again, I don't hate Fields. I think he's still talented. I think he can be something still, although people are completely out on him. I have a bigger problem with Daniel Jones, though. Like that. And I don't know if I'm a Daniel Jones hater. I'm drinking haterade. I don't know what it is. But ever since Daniel Jones got in the league, I've never seen it. And again, love what he can do with his legs. Vanilla Vic. It's funny. It's hilarious. But at the same time, the dude threw 15 touchdown passes last year and beat the fraudulent Vikings. And now he's intrigued with question marks.
Daniel Jones blows.
The only thing intriguing to me is how the hell he got $40 million. Like, that's the most intriguing part to me. How can I get $40 million? It has nothing to do with his football play because a guy, again, who threw 15 touchdown passes in a protected offense. Brian Dable did a really good job with Daniel Jones, not making him do too much, not exposing him, but really intrigue with question marks.
I mean, Brian Dable basically gave him his bottle and his binky and said, you're going to run a preschool level offense. And in his breakout season, he threw for a grand total of 15 touchdown passes. I really don't like the Daniel Jones cult that has developed. I know it's not a big cult or anything, but he still managed to get a $40 million a year contract for basically being, in my opinion, like the 20th best quarterback in the NFL. Daniel Jones blows, and you're going to see it this year.
Yeah.
He sucks.
I just don't. And again, his rookie season, he actually played pretty well. 24 touchdowns, 13 picks. But ever since then, I don't know. I don't know what people see in Daniel Jones. We'll find out. Let's see here. And Funky's chiming in. Danny Dimes had the highest completion percentage inside the 10-yard line, which actually is pretty impressive. But overall, as a quarterback, you've taken him. I mean, should he be in the same tier as Stafford, Rodgers? Like, no, I don't think so. But I guess if you have question marks about Daniel Jones, fine. But I don't agree with that. Notice how I haven't mentioned Jared Goff yet. So we're 3 tiers in and no Goff. You mentioned Daniel Jones. I mentioned Justin Fields. He's in tier 4. Tier 4, you can win with them. And I'll read off the names in that tier list. And I'll read the description before I get to the names. He writes, the best way to describe these guys, they can get you to the playoffs if everything around them breaks in their favor, but you cannot envision a scenario where they take you on a deep playoff run or win a Super Bowl without a really stout defense run game combo or the stars simply aligning. He also says Goff is the guy I felt bad including on this list, but it's technically a move up from JLC's list last year when he was just a guy, and he deserves that. With the caveat, maybe he's got a little upside left at age 28, and everything should click in Detroit this year. Mm-hmm. Okay, so Jared Goff is in this list. You can win with them, tier 4. They also have Dak Prescott, Geno Smith, Kirk Cousins, Ryan Tannehill, Derek Carr, Jimmy Garoppolo. And I'll just say this, in this specific tier right here with Dak, guys you can win with, how are we basing that? If you're basing this simply off the postseason, I agree. I don't agree. But if you're basing off the regular season, I agree. Can you win games with Dak Prescott? Yeah, you can.
Of course.
Can you win games with Kirk Cousins? Of course you can. They won 13 last year. Can you win games with Ryan Tannehill? He was number 1 in the AFC one year. Of course you can. Derek Carr, yeah, you can win, but he hasn't had the greatest situation around him, so fair. Jimmy G, he's gotten to a Super Bowl. He's won some playoff games, but he's not one of those guys. We understand that. Jared Goff's the only one out of these three, besides Jimmy, has playoff wins, has made a Super Bowl. Like, that's where I think, because the description kind of contradicts what the article's about. It says, they can get you to the playoffs if everything about them breaks in their favor, but you can't envision a scenario where they take you on a deep playoff win or run or win a Super Bowl without a really stout defense or run game combo. That's fair, but that's like a majority of the quarterbacks. How many guys can take you to a Super Bowl without a run game and a defense? Like, that has to be a part of it for most quarterbacks. Like, and I'm not trying to defend Goff and say he's elite. I don't actually disagree if you're saying he needs a defense, he needs a run game. I agree with that. But I still think he's better than every one of these quarterbacks listed. I do. I think he's better than every one of these quarterbacks. It's been shown in the postseason as well. Jimmy G, I think there's a toss-up. Jimmy G's gotten to a Super Bowl. But would you take Jared or Jimmy G? I would take Jared.
I would take Jared Goff. And let me just give this caveat too, because when we look at tier 3 versus tier 4, I am going to go with the premise that tier 3 doesn't necessarily mean you're a better quarterback than those at tier 4. I just think there's a higher boom or bust factor. Obviously, guys like Russell Wilson, Deshaun Watson, Aaron Rodgers, Matthew Stafford, guys like that have reached heights that nobody in tier 4 I think will ever reach. But a lot of them, I'd say all of them, either had injuries or terrible seasons last year. So I don't think tier 4 necessarily means that you're worse.
Yeah, it's just the category he's in, I guess, because, tier 3, like you said, you have question marks.
Yeah.
But even then, to have it just looks bad. Tier 3, you have Stafford, Rodgers, and then you have Goff in tier 4, who, again, is it that far off at this point from Goff and Rodgers? Rodgers won back-to-back MVPs, but last season struggled. What does he do this season? We'll see. But Jared Goff is also coming off a top 5 season last year, so I guess if we're going off body of work, I still would take Jared Goff over all these other guys. And I hate how now when people say Jared isn't elite, he's a guy that needs help, needs coaching, needs a run game, needs weapons, needs a defense. People act like that means you're trash. That's what I don't agree with, because that is a majority of the quarterbacks besides a handful of guys. I would say Mahomes doesn't need those things, but definitely it helps. Had a run game last year. But again, Mahomes is Mahomes. He's in a different stratosphere. Josh Allen, I would say the downfall of Buffalo is not having a run game. So, and again, that's not a knock on Josh Allen, but that's the reality of the NFL. You need help. Buffalo's had a pretty good defense. Are we going to knock Josh Allen for that? Like, no, that's what frustrates me, is when people talk about Jared Goff, they think when I say things like that, he needs a run game, he needs help, that it's a knock. It's not a knock. Most of the quarterbacks in the NFL need these things to succeed. And some get these things and still don't succeed. Dak Prescott, perfect example. You can have a top defense, you can have weapons, you can have coaching, and he still melts down. Like, there's quarterbacks that still do that, but Jared Goff, I think, is besides all the other quarterbacks he's listed with, Jared Goff is somebody that if you have all those things, he could do it.
That's fair, but
you can win with them.
You can win with them. I don't know if you're ever going to win because of them. But to be fair, and I know a lot of people aren't going to like this, Dak Prescott is a better playoff player than both Jared Goff and Jimmy G. Just because Jared Goff and Jimmy G got to a Super Bowl doesn't mean that they were the driving force. In 6 playoff games, Dak Prescott has thrown 11 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. So I'm not saying that he has been great at every playoff game, but he's had some moments of, I'd say, being unlucky, particularly that 2016 game against Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers. And when you look at Jimmy G, for example, I mean, obviously, I think Jared Goff is way above Jimmy Garoppolo. I think Jimmy Garoppolo blows because in his playoff career, he has more interceptions than touchdowns, but he just happened to get to a Super Bowl. He just happened to get to another conference championship game, even though in one of those playoff games he completed less than 10 passes, even though in one of those playoff games against Aaron Rodgers and the Packers at Lambeau Field, he led the offense to a grand total of 6 points, and the special teams got a blocked punt and got 7. So it's not all about getting to the Super Bowl or what you can do in the playoffs. But at the same time, I would agree that at least right now, Jared Goff is the best of the Tier 4 given what he did last year. But I think guys like Dak Prescott and Kirk Cousins, you're kind of a little quick to dismiss because Kirk Cousins, say what you want about him. Every single year he's been a starter in the NFL, he's thrown at least 25 touchdown passes. He's been to 4 Pro Bowls. Like people are acting like he's just trash. He was worse than Jared Goff last year, but he's serviceable. I mean, same with Dak Prescott. He was bad last year, but the year before, 37 touchdowns, 10 picks. So when you look at body of work, I would say everybody on that list except maybe Ryan Tannehill, who's also a fraud, and maybe Jimmy Garoppolo.
Well, how about this question? The tier is quarterbacks you can win with. Okay, so with these guys, Dak, Jared, Geno, Kirk, Ryan Tannehill, Derek Carr, Jimmy G, you got a team. And let's say you got a run game. You got a pretty good defense. You got good coaching. Which quarterback you want for the playoffs?
And out of everyone on this list,
yes.
All right, let me pull up that list.
I'll read
quick.
them off. Jared Goff, Dak Prescott, Geno Smith, Kirk Cousins, Ryan Tannehill, Derek Carr, Jimmy G. Who do you want?
Based off of resume, I got to go with Dak Prescott.
That's who you want in the playoffs.
Based off of what I think he will be next year, I would probably say Jared Goff. Dak Prescott is not a bad playoff player.
Sam.
Jared Goff has 4 touchdown passes his entire playoff career. He had 1 in his Super Bowl run and led his offense to 3 freaking points against the Patriots in the Super Bowl. That was fraudulent. It wasn't because of Jared Goff. He got carried. Got carried literally carried like this to the Super Bowl.
Legend killer.
Well,
but he's a better quarterback now than he's ever been. Both things can be true.
Okay, well, interesting. I would disagree because Dak Prescott has had more chances with a better roster and has came up short every single time. So if you have to talk about sample size, that's a pretty good sample size. Jared Goff, with talent, has won more, but you could argue, well, they haven't won because of Jared. Well, who gives a damn? Who's winning because of who? You're winning more in the playoffs with Jared.
Okay, but
Dak has. I mean, you could say, well, last year he had a down year. He's came up short multiple years with Zeke, with that defense, with that offensive line, with any coach he's had. It's been shortcomings, Sam. And you still want him?
But you act like Jared...
to quarterback your team in the playoffs?
You act like Jared Goff has been this exemplary playoff quarterback. He most certainly has not.
I'm not saying that,
He's
but I'm
been
saying...
mid-AF.
I'm saying if I give you the coaching, if I give you the run game, if I give you the defense, if he has everything around him, who you taking? You're choosing Dak. To win more in the playoffs.
Okay, moving forward, Jared Goff, but I'm not saying that Dak Prescott has been. You act like he's been this trash, shitty NFL quarterback in the playoffs, and every one of you in the chat is going to agree. Look at the numbers. That's why I like numbers. I kill narratives. You act like Dak Prescott just those 0 touchdowns, 3 picks in every playoff game.
Here's the problem. You're valuing numbers. I'm valuing results.
Okay, but it's a team stat. The team was winning.
I'm not saying of course. So you're going to take the better individual player who can't win because of the stats. I don't care what Jared Goff has proven it. You give him these things, he'll win playoff games. It's been done. No matter if it's because of him or because of the team, who gives a damn? I'll take a playoff win.
So does Jimmy Garoppolo get credit for that game against the Packers where he completed less than 10 passes? I think that was the NFC Championship game. Does he get credit for that game at Lambeau where he led the team to 6 points?
And it's not about who gets credit. It's about what quarterback would you have if you had these things around him. Well, who would you trust? Who do you want to quarterback your team, not put up the most stats, put up more touchdowns, put up more passing yards? If you need to win the game, Sam, who you taking? And you chose Dak.
No, moving forward. Sorry, I didn't mean to stun you. That was a little disrespectful.
No, okay.
I'll give you that. But moving forward, I would go with Jared Goff. But I am also have to become a Dak Prescott or a Rain Dakota Prescott defender because everyone here acts like he's trash and just a choker. He has come up short in some games, but it's not always his fault. Just remember.
And for this, Chili says, then Jeff prefers dark over mellow. He got a ring. No, you're comparing a sport where individual talent means more than in the NFL. If you're playing quarterback, talent means everything. But if you're comparing the quarterback, I'm telling you right now, you get the defense, you get the run game, you get the offensive line, you get the coaching, you get all of it. Who do you want quarterback in your team? With results, I'm going with Jared Goff. But if you're talking about basketball, of course I'm going to take the best player with 5 players on the court. I want Melo, clearly. But football is a little different. I don't need it's not always the quarterback that puts up all the numbers. You need guys that can win you games. Josh Allen, perfect example of that, and he's been close. And I still have a lot of love for Josh Allen, but still, it's not always about guys that can put up numbers. Dak Prescott's a prime example. Look at his playoff stats. Looks pretty good. What's the results look like? But again, it's a team game.
Don't be one of those guys that brings up Josh Allen as an example of guys who can't get done in the playoffs. Please don't do that, Jeff Iafrate. Obviously, last year was a little bit of I know we got to get to break, but I have to get this out there because I always have to get this out there. Last year, he came up short against Cincinnati at home. Only led his offense to 10 points. That's egregious, but if anybody wants to use that Kansas City Chiefs game where he threw the game-winning touchdown pass, what should have been the game-winning touchdown pass, his 4th of the day, by the way, with 13 seconds left, his defense couldn't hold Kansas City from kicking a field goal, and then he never got the ball back. Kansas City scored a touchdown in overtime. Those are examples of Josh Allen playing phenomenally and losing.
Well, here's the perfect summary of how I feel. Tyler says, and Tyler's always dropping facts. He says, if you have pieces around a quarterback, you want a quarterback who F's up less. Is that fair? In this situation, if I'm giving you everything you need, good coaching, out of the quarterbacks I named, I'll prefer the guy that just messes up less. Rather than if I had less on my roster, I want the quarterback who can overcompensate for that. I would take a Mahomes. I would take a Allen. I would take a Burrow. But in this situation with everything around him, McVay's system, whatever you want to say, he has everything around the quarterback. I'm going with Jared Goff because he's proven it. If I give him everything, he can get to a Super Bowl.
Well,
I haven't seen that with Dak with pretty damn good rosters. Well, it's not about Dak being trash. It's just that. It's playoff success. That's all.
No, and to be fair, moving forward, especially, maybe just this year, Jared Goff will have Ben Johnson, who to me, he's not as good of a proven offensive mind as Sean McVay, but he is certainly on that track of being one of the brighter young offensive minds in the NFL. In my opinion, maybe the best in terms of ones who aren't head coaches yet, but they're next. I think you would agree with that.
Yeah, I would. And I'll tell you this. If you think Dak's elite, well, I have the place for you. It's Dispo, because you got to get high. Because I don't know what you're smoking already if you feel that way, but I got the place to go to if you want to smoke. It's Dispo. Experience the true meaning of exceptional cannabis products with Dispo Dispensary. Indulge in the finest selection of cannabis curated with care. With over 10 locations, Dispo is never too far away. Visit DispoShops.com today and unlock a world of endless possibilities in the realm of cannabis. That is DISPOShops.com, your local cannabis plug.
Love Woodward Sports? Love wearing clothes? Then you should be wearing Woodward Sports clothes. Check out our full line of merch at woodwardsports.com. Just click on shop. We have all your favorite designs, like Dan Campbell kneecaps, Woodward golf, and of course, our own logoed out merchandise. Men, women, infants, kids all love Woodward Sports. Impress your friends. Impress your boss. Impress your dog. Buy Woodward Sports merch today. Sports network in Detroit that starts with a W. You know, because we win. Woodward Sports, Detroit's winning sports network.
Welcome back to the Morning Woodward Show here at woodwardsports.com. Gabrielle D. Phillips, Jeff Iafrate, Sam Flannel. We have JB in the sound booth, and we have Alex in the TD booth. Thanks so much for sticking with us this morning. Follow us on all social media at Woodward Sports, but we need to get into a little bit of hockey. Because yes, the DeBrincat rumors have continued. They have not settled. He still has not been traded. We have no clue where he's going, but the rumors have been narrowed down to the Red Wings and the Islanders. So now, where will he go? I guess we will see nothing has happened. We all thought it would happen on the night of the draft. We thought it would happen right after, when you have that buzz, those first 2 days of free agency movement, and nothing. So was this all a part of Yzerman's plan? Maybe. Now I'm thinking that it's coming together a little bit. Maybe now that there's been this period of time where no one else has also taken him, that we can get him for a little bit cheaper, because it was rumored that he was looking for a 7 or 8 year contract worth close to $9 million a season, and the Red Wings weren't looking to sign him for more than 5 or 6 years in the $7.5 million range. So with this period of time, maybe Yzerman's getting closer to getting him for what he wants, or at least closer to that. But we're going to see. It's just a matter of time, and there's some other rumors going along with that, but I wanted to hear your guys' thoughts.
Well, that's what good GMs do. Like, especially if you see an asset that's depreciating, and that's across all sports, NBA, NFL, MLB, NHL. You see an asset, a distressed asset, you don't want to jump and immediately try and trade for whoever it is, because you know if they don't want to be there, and Ottawa has no leverage, he doesn't want to be there at all. He'd much rather probably come home to Detroit, where he's from, or Michigan rather. Then I think Stevie's playing this exactly how he should play it. I know people want the splash right now, but if Stevie's going to get his guy, and DMAC always says this, it's going to be for the right price, and it's going to be the right timing of it as well. And you're going to have to pay him the right amount. Obviously, you don't want to overpay for Alex DeBrincat, but everybody wants a 40-goal scorer, right? That's the ideal offseason move. You want a guy that can score goals. Stevie mentioned this too, and we need guys that can score goals. He's very self-aware. People act like Stevie doesn't even know that. But for Alex DeBrincat, though, the question I have, and Sam, I want you to take this, because at this point it seems like it's between Lou and Steve. It's the Islanders and the Red Wings at this point. If he goes to the Islanders, maybe it's not the right destination, or at least ideal for him and where he wants to live. He has a wife. They have a kid. He's from Michigan. I think his wife's from Michigan, actually, even so. So he would prefer probably to live in Michigan. Is it a failed offseason? Or what does the offseason, how would you grade it compared if you got Alex DeBrincat or if you miss out on Alex DeBrincat? Does it make or break this offseason for the Red Wings?
So I think it can make the offseason. I don't necessarily think it will break it if they don't get him. Because Alex DeBrincat, we all know, and you mentioned he's a distressed asset right now. Isn't it great when distressed assets are 2-time 40-goal scorers, especially when the Detroit Red Wings haven't had one since 08-09 and Marian Hossa? That was a long time ago. That was over a decade ago. That was in the 00s, not even the 10s or the 20s. It's been a while. And obviously I think Alex DeBrincat, if you got him on this team, I think the Detroit Red Wings not only would be a playoff team, but a team you could maybe even see winning a series. And if you win a series, especially as a lower seed, anything can happen. I'm not saying they're a true contender, but Alex DeBrincat would help out that much. You'd put him on the line with Dylan Larkin, Lucas Raymond, maybe Mo Seider, Jake Wallman. That's not bad. I don't necessarily hate it. But at the same time, if you don't, My grade on the Red Wings offseason, if you don't get Alex DeBrincat, even if you do get Alex DeBrincat, you're going to see it play out on the ice. If the Red Wings make the playoffs, no matter what they got, even if they just have the signings that they have with like JT Compher and Shane Gottsespierre and Daniel Sprong, if you just have guys like that, depth pieces, and guys like Dylan Larkin, Lucas Raymond and Mo Seider continue to improve, I think that they could make the playoffs and it would be a successful offseason. But at the same time, at this point in the rebuild, I think how it plays out during the season determines how successful the offseason was, because the Red Wings are at a different stage of the rebuild than, say, the Detroit Pistons or the Detroit Tigers. The Red Wings have shown tangible improvements in the win column. And up next is playoffs. DeBrincat, I think, guarantees to get you there. But even without him, I still think they have to make it, and I still think they can. The jury is still out for me, and it'll be out until the season plays itself out.
Yeah, and again, for this, just the point on Alex DeBrincat too, to make or break the offseason, if you don't get Alex DeBrincat, and again, to make or break the offseason, meaning the offseason's over, I don't think it's over. I think Steve Yzerman, as much as he has these comments about, it's not the right time, there's something. You don't go 5 years and now at this point where you gather all the young talent, you construct the roster how it's constructed, you sign Larkin, like he's going through these steps in order to build a contender. It's coming. It's been 5 years. People are pissed off. I understand that, but Neil lays it out perfectly with context. I think context matters as well. It's not just 5 years of doing the same thing. There's a lot of things that Stevie needed to do in order to get to this point, to have assets, money, up and coming young talent as well. Like, clearly for Alex DeBrincat, the Red Wings are one of the only teams that have the assets in order to do it. And you have the leverage because Alex wants to come to Michigan. So you have everything going in his favor. I don't mind if Stevie takes his time with this. I think that's the right move because Ottawa, by the day, is losing more and more leverage. So I would much rather prefer Stevie to take his time and get the right deal than rush this thing. Because eventually, didn't they want 9 at first? They wanted pick 9.
I believe so. That was rumored that they wanted pretty high.
And Stevie's like, hell no. Mm-hmm. And at this point, you might be able to get him for pennies on the dollar. So or you can sign them. Regardless of what they do, I would much rather you acquire them, you get them on the roster, and then you sign them to an extension. But I don't think this make or breaks the offseason because even if they don't get him right away, doesn't mean they can't get him or doesn't mean they can't get that guy, the right fit, the guy who can get you 30, 40 goals a season. And say what you want about DeBrincat, say what you want. He played with talent. Obviously, his job's going to be a little easier. But even playing with the Red Wings, Dylan Larkin, those two and what they would do for each other, I think would be incredible. And I think DeBrincat with the Red Wings is a great fit.
Exactly. He had an incredible offseason. I think that Yzerman, with the pieces that he had, that he got in the draft, that he made very quickly, very fast. I mean, we had 12 acquisitions in that period. I mean, for undrafted free agents. So you look at that. He made a lot of solid moves that not a lot of people were expecting.
Sure.
So I think it was an overall very solid draft and free agency, but this would be, I think, the cherry on top that will put him over the edge with a lot of Red Wings fans, with a lot of Detroit fans. I think this would really seal the deal for a lot of people, but where I think we're also waiting is what's happening with Zadina.
Yes.
Because now these rumors are picking back up. We saw the action with the waivers and then clearing his waivers, but now it's rumored that today we're going to find out that they'll be terminating his contract. That Zadina is terminating his contract. He doesn't want to play for the Red Wings. That he's made comments that if he goes down and he's not going to be playing in the NHL, that he's going to be going down to Grand Rapids to play there, that he is going to terminate his contract, that he will not show up to practice. Therefore, he'll be in breach of his contract.
Mm-hmm. Which, I mean, talk about the Zadina storyline there. I mean, it's not Steve's guy, but still somebody that you thought you had hope in. But it is what it is. Zadina, goodbye. I mean, at this point.
He's a bust. I hate to say it, but he's a bust. I mean, Philip Hu at this point, his career high in points in a season is 24 in 74 games. And last year, an injury-plagued season, he had 7 in 30. Mm-hmm. Philip Zadina is irrelevant right now to the Detroit Red Wings. Hate to say it, but when you're a draft bust, those are the kind of tags you get.
The only reason he's relevant is because he's owed $4.56 million over the next 2 years, and him being gone allows much more cap space. We're sitting at like $10 million right now, but add that in there, and that's frees up a lot more room for the key pieces like DeBrincat, where you're not shelling out the rest of the money that you have left in your cap space. And really the important quote that I'm taking away from Yzerman in like looking at this whole situation from a bird's eye level is that he said the reality is now, in terms of Zadina, the reality is now you wanted that contract. That contract may prevent you from getting the opportunity you're looking for in another organization. So I think that goes both ways with Zadina. That goes both ways with, DeBrincat, and, the contracts that they both have are keeping each of these teams in a really kind of crappy situation where they're figuring out what am I going to do and how am I going to get the most out of the situation. And also, how are we going to keep these players happy?
Right.
Because at the end of the day, you want them to be playing where they want to play. And you see that Brad Holmes has done that really well with the Lions, is that when someone doesn't want to be there, he gets them to where they want to be. Mm-hmm. Because at the end of the day, it's their career too. And as I believe, as Yzerman, in Yzerman's shoes, he's been there where all those players have been. And I don't think he wants anybody a part of the team that doesn't want to be a part of the team.
Right. And that's the key to all team sports too. If you don't want to be there, then you don't want that asset on your team. That's consistent across all sports. But just to read some of these comments too, Answer 14 says, the Red Wings made the playoffs for 25 straight years. True dynasty. I hope Steve is building us for that again. My concern is how committed is ownership to doing that. Well, that's part of it. I think for ownership, the more question I have for at least ownership, my concern is with the Tigers more so than the Red Wings.
I would agree with that.
So, because Stevie, at least, he lets Stevie operate. Chris does. So at this point, at least you could say Stevie, as much as people may be frustrated, and I agree with William Rhodes here. He says A+ with DeBrincat, B+ without DeBrincat.
Solid.
For the offseason.
Yeah.
And Steve, Al, what are you doing?
I don't know
Why are you
about
making
B.
that
I don't know
face?
about B plus.
What would you give
A
it?
minus.
What would you give it? An F?
No. Come on, Jeff Iafrate. You know me better than that. I think its floor is like a C minus, and its floor is I think it's pass fail. Playoffs or bust. And I think
they expect that as well.
I think the players that they acquired can help them. But at the same time, if they don't make the playoffs, then I think there's going to be some questions. I'm not saying that Stevie Y should lose his job if the Red Wings miss the playoffs, but at some point, you got to actually win games.
Yeah, every GM is based on results, so that's fair. But they expect to also make the playoffs, too. I think if they don't make the playoffs, then there's disappointment, not just with the fans, but also with Steve. I think that would go both ways. But you know where there's never disappointment, Sam? When I go to Lady Jane's and I get my hair cut.
Yes, and when I go to Lady Jane's as well, I actually am probably going to get a haircut today, either after this show or after Big D Energy, because I need to look this good every single time. Hey, when I'm sitting next to Jeff Iafrate, working with Jeremy Bryant, working with Alex Westfall, and of course the lovely Gabrielle D. Phillips, I have to look my best. And Lady Jane's always has me looking my best to go with my clean-shaven baby face. And I go to any stylist because they all do such a great job. And how would you like to win a new vehicle for you and a friend? That's right, a new car for you and your wife, girlfriend, or best bud.
Ooh.
Just get to Lady Jane's and automatically register for your chance to win, courtesy of Les Stanford Buick GMC of Ferndale. Lady Jane's, haircuts for men, open 7 days a week, walk in anytime. It's wicked awesome.
The sports marketing agency would not be who we are without great community partners like Higuera Health and Carol Zaniga.
It's an awesome opportunity to partner with your organization. Higuera Health is a comprehensive behavioral health organization. We serve children through older adults with mental health, substance use, and developmental disabilities across Western Wayne counties, and really excited to now be in downriver communities as well. Give us a call at 734-458-4601.
All of Detroit's sports teams live on Woodward.
All of Detroit's sports coverage lives on Woodward Sports.
Driving the best in Detroit sports coverage.
Play, practice, and party at 5 Iron Golf coming this July to Detroit, located inside of the Cambria Hotel. Downtown's newest sports bar has 13 TrackMan simulators, certified instructors, and a full bar and restaurant. Mention promo code Woodward at checkout for 50% off your first visit, and visit 5irongolf.com to tee up good times. That is 5irongolf.com.
Jeff, you got to head over to 5 Iron.
Well, you know what, I do plan to do it. I was talking to Brady, and shout out to 5 Iron because they're going to welcome some people from Woodward Sports to go try it out. And I think I'll volunteer as tribute. I got to work on my skills.
Katniss Everdeen over here.
I'll volunteer as tribute. I will, because I got to work on my skills, and I think it'd be hilarious. So definitely will be making my way over to 5 Iron. But before we get to what's trending, I just want to bring this up because we've got about 4 minutes now.
Yep.
I did it. I didn't do it fully. I started The Hangover, okay? I didn't get to finish it because I had to prep, and at that point it was 10 o'clock at night, so I had to prep. And I can't watch and prep because I would be lying, and I wouldn't be focusing on the movie. I got through an hour of The Hangover. I'll admit, I don't know why it took this long to start watching it. It is funny, I gotta say. And Bradley Cooper, by the way, I've never seen him in a comedic role. Like, usually I watch Bradley Cooper and everything else. He's funny, man. He's great. He's hilarious. And I got to say, too, I haven't finished it. I'm at the part currently where they run into Mike Tyson. I'm at that part. It's about an hour in. But I love it so far.
Good.
Sam Flannel, I thought I'd make you proud today. I started it, didn't finish it. I'll finish it tonight, and I'll tell you tomorrow. I'll give you the full breakdown. But it is worth the hype. I will say that.
Are we starting tomorrow's show with a Roger Ebert-style Hangover review by Jeff Iafrate?
Yes, we will. Yeah, we will. It was funny. I was laughing. And typically, if I'm watching movies by myself, I'm not a guy who's gonna die all the time at comedies. Like, I'll sit there and laugh. Oh, good joke, I'll react. I was actually laughing. Like, it was funny. I gotta admit. I asked JB before the show, how in the hell do they have 2 and 3? Like, I'm already pretty much in. JB's got it on deck for me, and I don't need the DVDs, but now I might just take it just to watch both of them now, because I gotta watch part 2, of course, after this one.
How long will it take you to get around to watching part 2?
Well, part 2, that'll probably take a couple months to get to part 2.
Months?
That's okay.
Yeah,
that's okay.
My procrastination.
JB's going to start giving you late fees for these DVDs, the return.
It's like less than a 2-hour movie. How is it taking you a couple months?
Well, actually funny, back when Blockbuster was a thing, I did use, you know how you'd rent like movies or video games, and they'd be like, bring it back within, whatever, a week. I know you always keep that thing for like over a week, and I'd never get feed or for whatever reason. I'm definitely going to watch 2. I will. I will watch 2. Now, Steve says here in the chat, you can skip Hangover 2, but 3 is okay to watch. Is that fair? Hangover 2 is a little meh, but 3 is good?
I personally like 2 over 3, but then again, I don't know. It all depends. You might like 3 more than 2. Who knows?
Benji DeGoat says, shout out to Benji, by the way, jumping in the chat. He says, you're just now watching Hangover, Jeff? Yeah, by the way, Benji, this has been a thing. I've never watched The Hangover. And don't act like I've never watched any movies. I do like movies. But The Hangover, for whatever reason, I never watched it. I don't know why. I don't know why. I finally watched it. Pretty much full. I only have, 30 minutes left of the movie, which I'll finish it later tonight. But I will admit, it was funny. So I have nothing bad to say about it. It was funny.
Yeah, I mean, and to talk about Hangover 2 and Hangover 3, obviously Hangover 1 to me is the best of the bunch by far. And I would say Hangover 2, I'm not giving anything away. The word I would use to describe Hangover 2 is fun, but redundant. You'll understand once you watch Hangover 2 for sure, but I'll let you leave that to your imagination.
Steven says Jeff watches movies like I read books 4 pages at a time. Well, I did kind of. I don't always watch movies like this, but I didn't have time to actually finish it.
Are you someone that falls asleep during movies?
No, I'm not that.
What about you, Flannel?
It depends on the movie.
Yeah.
I mean, I know all of us doing the morning show. This right now in my life is the earliest I've ever really gone to bed on a consistent basis. And I actually understand, Jeff, the plight right now, because for all of you who don't know, Jeff is kind of El Capitano of the show and does the prep. I help out when I can, but it's mainly Jeff's prep. And that's a lot on your plate, man. You got to be more plugged in than the average person when it comes to sports. So I will give you that pass. Don't listen to the haters too much, but at the same time, I'm only giving you that pass because you at least started The Hangover.
Yeah, I had to, and I figured why not yesterday. And again, I laughed. One of my favorite parts of the movie so far, at least, where I actually did laugh, is when they're holding the baby, and the old guy comes up to him and he's like, what's the baby's name? He's like, Carlos. That got me. I'm not going to lie. That was funny. But regardless, I will finish the movie. I'll give you the full breakdown tomorrow. But I just want to mention that. We'll go to What's Trending now with Gabby, and we'll break down some things that are happening across the world right now. But before we do that, again, I'll tell you about our friends over at SMA, because the sports marketing agency helps spread awareness about mental health and substance abuse. Their new podcast, This is the S Word, helps fight the stigma about seeking help. If you or someone you know is struggling, head to thesportsma.com for more information.
Since the dawn of moving people, Chevrolet has led the way. The world of transportation is changing. At Feldman Chevrolet, we are leading the charge forward. With every electric vehicle, every mile traveled, one Feldman at a time. The company that puts more Chevys on Michigan roads is now the #1 name for Chevy electric vehicles.
We don't like to brag that we are the toughest sports network in Detroit.
But we do have a guy named Darren McCarty on our side.
Woodward Sports.
Welcome back to the Morning Woodward Show here at woodwardsports.com. Thanks for hanging out with us all morning. This Thursday, Friday Junior. We're almost to the weekend. Hang in there. But before we get there, we got to get to what's trending. And these are the dog days of summer right now. Not a lot going on in sports. Not a lot going on in pop culture. But when the news is bleak, there is one person that you can rely on to spark rumors and get the flames burning again. And that is Brittany Mahomes.
Oh, jeez.
Brittany Mahomes, who
happened?
PETA coming after her because she took a family vacation and took pictures with a dolphin. And now everyone is pissed.
Wait. For how she was holding or just being with the dolphin? I don't understand.
PETA doesn't like anyone that participates in any animal activities that are not allowing the animals to be in the wild and free. And in these situations, the dolphins live in captivity. Therefore, she participated in this animal captivity activity, and now she
Dude, I
has
swear to
PETA
God,
coming for her.
This country is so soft, man. Like, I understand putting, like, and I'm not a huge fan of, like, SeaWorld and all these places that keep animals in, like, this small little enclosure, and you expect them. Everyone just points at them, and, hey, look, and the animal's just sitting there, and who knows? I would much rather them be in their natural habitat. I understand all that. But dude, it's a dolphin. I'm sure. I don't know if you have done this, Sam, but I went to Cozumel. I didn't swim with dolphins, but I pet some dolphins, and they were actually taken care of in the place I went to. It was great. It was really high quality. It wasn't some trash enclosure. It wasn't like they were treating these guys or abusing the dolphins. But for this picture, really? You're taking a picture with a dolphin and everybody's overreacting?
Yeah, so
like PETA is oh my gosh, man.
You know what I would call this, and I'm gonna coin a new term, and you all know I'm right. Don't try to deny it. This is Brittany Mahomes derangement syndrome, because at this point everybody all knows that she's annoying. But at the same time, if Patrick Mahomes chooses that that's his wife, then I'm gonna stand with Patrick Mahomes on this one. Leave Brittany alone. Oh my God, I sound just like that one guy. I didn't realize I was doing that. But leave Brittany alone, for real. The sentiment holds true.
No, like, again, it's different. Like, I understand why people are all, like PETA, for example, if you're going to come after people abusing animals, like actually physically abusing animals, I understand that. But this is this is soft.
Agreed.
The dolphin, and it's not even Brittany. Come after the people who have the dolphin in that enclosure. Why are you coming after Brittany, who just paid money to go take a picture with a dolphin? It's like, it's not her fault. It's like she has no responsibility for the dolphin. Yeah. Like, that's what my problem is you're attacking the wrong people. Like, I don't, and I'm not a huge fan of Mahomes' family. Like Jackson, Brittany, they're all annoying to me.
Jackson's a different story.
Yeah, they're all annoying to me. But I will say this: I think this is not right for her to get all this criticism because she took a picture with a dolphin. Like,
happens all the time. Happens all the time, and I fully admit that I've done it. Yeah, I have that exact same picture.
But does that mean you hate dolphins?
No, I love dolphins.
Like, I mean, I don't know. It's stupid. I don't get it. But that's the world we live in.
And it's Brittany Mahomes, which is why it's stirring this all up. And I don't know if this is from like a recent vacation or if people are resurfacing this, but just let her be at this point. Like, she's going to be who she's going to be. And if you can't catch on to that by now, then you're just wasting your own damn time.
Coach Walk 37 says, I took my kid to see the dolphins at Atlantis, and they're more taken care of than the dolphins in the wild. Like, there are some places that's the case, too. Yeah. I don't know about for dolphins.
Like,
but
sanctuaries. Yeah. Like, they have dolphin sanctuaries where they take care of them. Like, the one that I went to is, like, a partial enclosure. So they, like, had them out in this like really nice, well-kept area, and then they would bring them in for the excursions. But
this is over the top. This is over the top.
So the next item on the list for today's What's Trending is Jack Eichel, won the Stanley Cup, and then he got it tattooed on his leg.
Oh, jeez.
So I have a little picture to share of that here. Now my question is here, and Jeff, you are our resident new tattoo man.
Oh, no, I do not claim to be that.
You're the new tattoo man. So what are your thoughts on this? Like, you're a professional athlete, you win the Stanley Cup. Like, would you get it tattooed on your body?
I mean, JB, you have more tattoos than me, but at least I can speak on for that. I don't have an issue with it. Winning a Stanley Cup, that is the biggest accomplishment in his respective sport. So I understand why you'd get it tattooed, but they give you rings as well. But maybe now you have something you'll never get rid of, I guess. But I would much rather just keep the ring. And if people ask, I'd be like, here's a ring. I don't have to be like, here's my tattoo on my thigh to show I proved it.
Not his first tattoo, though, as you can see. He does have another tattoo, so it's not like this is his first tattoo. The only thing that I'm saying is I think this is more like totally normal than a fan getting it on there.
Yes, agreed. He actually partook in winning a Stanley Cup. Of course, I have no issue with him getting the tattoo. And honestly, I think it's pretty sweet. You don't hear players in the NFL or NBA when they win the title, they get the Lombardi Trophy or whatever tattooed on them. It's new. I don't mind it, and it's not in an obvious spot. It's on his upper thigh, which only the ladies will see that.
Hey, I mean, I think, yes, Jeff Iafrate, ladies man over here. I think that Jack Eichel probably at some point made a declaration to himself. If I could lead the Las Vegas Golden Knights to a Stanley Cup, I will get it tattooed on my, I wouldn't do upper thigh, but hey, if that's what it takes, I mean, a Stanley Cup is a big deal. And if you make those kind of declarations, you don't want to not follow through, because then you anger the sports gods, and you most certainly do not want to do that.
Oh, no.
And for this too, this comment I want to get to. And I actually didn't really think about this. The Ski Mask Boy says he basically said, "This is my only cup with that tattoo." Yeah, what happens if he wins another one?
Does he get another cup?
I think there's room on there that he could add the other date below.
Okay, well then if that's the case,
if
then I
it's
guess
still
that matters.
With Vegas, because Vegas' logo is on there. But then I guess he could also get another one.
I love this, too. Motown Sports says, it's better than getting "Only God Can Judge Me" or "Trust No One" tattooed, which, yeah, that's bad. "Only God Can Judge Me" or "Trust No One." Yeah, that's pretty basic.
Trust no one is, why would you do that?
Yeah,
you're basically, you're branding yourself somebody that is basically, with all due respect, undateable for the rest of your life.
Yeah, no, it is. It's ridiculous. But yeah, I don't have an issue with it. Do whatever. Hey, live your life. Live your life.
Next story, moving on to a little F1 news. Ryan Reynolds, F1 news. Ryan Reynolds, Rob McElhenney, and Michael B. Jordan are a part of an investment group called Redbird Capital, and they just purchased stake in the Alpine Formula One team. So 24% stake, $218 million invested. And I don't know if you guys are familiar, but Ryan Reynolds recently had a documentary series called Welcome to Wrexham. He purchased a soccer team, football team, a football club. Thank you. And they filmed an entire docu-series on it, and like their progress with like getting involved with the team and going back and forth, and it's brought like a lot of hype not only to the team, but also to the city, the town that this team revolves around, the team. And I think this is just another step in his waters of sports investments. So kind of cool.
I didn't know that this was, and again, I maybe just because I don't partake, I don't watch racing, but hey, good for them. If there's money to be made in racing, and if it's growing as fast as people think, then of course. Although I'm not educated, Sam, you seem to know it every time we do trivia, but regardless,
I mean,
have fun with it. Go make money.
You know, when I was a little bit younger, I had about a year where I tried to be a fan of racing, like Formula One. I liked Lewis Hamilton, NASCAR of all people. If any of you guys in the chat know this name, we can have a laugh together, maybe over a beer. I was a fan of Juan Pablo Montoya. You hear that? A regular household name, obviously.
Oh, yeah, he's household already.
I think nobody in the chat is going to know who that is, and I don't blame you. I'm a bit of a geek. But did you say that Michael B. Jordan was a member of that?
Yeah.
Yeah, crickets. Hey, I'm a big Michael B. Jordan fan.
Yeah.
His performance as Creed.
I love that movie, too. And Michael B. Jordan, and again, for me, I guess for NASCAR at least, Jeff Gordon. There you go. That's all I got. All right. Well, that was fun. Good for Michael B. Jordan. Good for Ryan Reynolds. Go make your money. Go make your money.
Last little piece of news. Jameson Williams and myself both did not blow off our fingers lighting off fireworks for the 4th of July. So I just thought, since he shared his video on social media, that I would share my video on the show. So we had friends come over for 4th of July, and somebody brought a tomahawk firework for me to light off, because go Knowles. So Alex, if you want to throw that video up there of me lighting off that firework with my dad.
Oh my.
In your hand.
Yeah,
which was so fun.
Sam Flannel, care to comment?
I mean, hey, I think Gabby has shown a lot more at Woodward Sports than JMO has with the Lions. So I'm just so far.
Yeah. Well,
but I'll take it.
I was just running it by Sam. I was just making sure that, you know, if she's qualified, if people are qualified to, you know, JB, did you launch some fireworks?
I didn't.
Okay.
No.
Maybe you're not qualified. Maybe you don't have 900 yards receiving.
Maybe
JB's qualified at Woodward Sports for sure. He is.
Yeah. Well, again, you're an American. Light fireworks. Just don't blow your fingers off. That's all that matters. I'll tell you what. Is that all you got?
That's all we got
All
for
right,
trending stories today.
Well, good job. We'll get to mailbag here. Get your questions ready, whoever you have them for. Before we go to break, I got to tell you about our friends over at Guardian Alarm because, guys, it's Guardian Alarm, and they got customized solutions from real experts. They got 24/7 professional monitoring, and they got technology backed by people. Your safety and security deserves technology that's not only been proven to work, but by people that have been proven to care. Call 1-800-STAY-OUT for more information.
Introducing the Planet Fitness Guide to getting that post-workout glow. Step 1. What's your why? More epic energy? Better sleep? Blow off steam? Step 2. Join Planet Fitness for just $10 a month and get moving in our clean and spacious clubs. Step 3. Bask in that post-workout glow. Join Planet Fitness today for just $10 a month.
Join today at any of the 50-plus Detroit area locations.
Love Woodward Sports? Love wearing clothes? Then you should be wearing Woodward Sports clothes. Check out our full line of merch at woodwardsports.com. Just click on shop. We have all your favorite designs, like Dan Campbell kneecaps, Woodward golf, and of course, our own logoed out merchandise. Men, women, infants, kids all love Woodward Sports. Impress your friends. Impress your boss. Impress your dog. Buy Woodward Sports merch today.
Welcome back to the Morning Woodward Show here at woodwardsports.com. Thanks so much for tuning in this morning. Jeff Iafrate, Sam Flannel, myself, Gabrielle D. Phillips, with JB and Alex in the booths. And if you're just tuning in, don't worry. You can go back and listen to this whole episode either on YouTube, our website, or go download this as a podcast wherever you listen to your podcast and leave a 5-star review. And help us up the amount of likes on this stream before we're done. And finally, tune back in at 11 a.m. for Big D Energy, 2 p.m. for Monty and Edwards with Maz, and 5 p.m. for the Woodward Heavyweights.
First question, Michael Gentry. Jeff, huge fan here. One day, can I come golfing with you? Mike, shut up. Mike would smoke me in golfing. I'll go with you, Mike, but just don't make fun of me. That's all I ask, okay?
What a nice guy.
Is that a fair deal? All right. Let's see here. Lucian says, Mailbag, if you could have any Super Bowl matchup this year, what would be the most entertaining, Sam?
Chiefs-Lions, no doubt about it.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah,
actually, I'll agree with that one. I'll agree. Is that fair? JB, you agree with that? Chiefs-Lions, anything else? Most entertaining?
No, I think that would be pretty good, though.
Yeah.
I like that one.
All right, solid. Let's get to some more of these questions. Again, Jack says, Mailbag, Jeff, you guys doing a fantasy football draft at WSN? I'm sure, yeah, we'll have fantasy football. I was the runner-up last year. I was a champion the year prior. I can't wait. I want all the smoke. I don't claim to be the best, but for some reason, luck goes my way in fantasy.
Well,
I don't have as many players get injured. Players on the right weeks show up to play. Like fantasy, yeah, you got to get the right players, but some of it is just luck.
You were pretty good at fantasy, although I'm most known for picking Patrick Mahomes in the first round, which I stand by to this day, by the way. That was a great pick by me.
Let's see here. Broder says, we're coming for you, Juicy. I can't wait, Broder. Well, it's going to be fun. Ryan Len says, hey, Jeff, ran into you at the car wash. Huge fan. I was too nervous to say hi. Shut up, Ryan. All right, stop it.
Scoundrels, rascals in the chat.
I can't believe you're being so mean to your fans.
Well, Ryan, yeah, these guys, I love them. I mean, Ryan, I'll see him in about 30 minutes. Let's
walks into the back of the office.
Steve-O says, Mailbag Gabby, which movie made you want to be in tears the most when it comes to drama movies?
Okay, so I saw this, and I've been thinking, and I think most recently, it was where the Crawdads sing. If that doesn't make you sob, I don't know what does. I was sobbing, but I'm gonna give myself up here. I am a crier. Do you ever, maybe this is just a me thing, sometimes you just feel like a good cry, so you put on a good, cry movie.
I can't relate.
I mean,
unless I'm watching with my woman, or so, I can't. I don't just turn on movies and cry.
Well,
I don't know. You might, Sam.
Well, I don't necessarily turn on movies and cry. Actually, I find it the worst to do with my wife because I think she's only seen me even shed a tear once or twice in my entire life. And it was for, I'd say, a valid reason. But yeah, I mean, every once in a while, I turn on the penultimate scene in Moneyball where he hits the walk-off. Scott Hatteberg hits the walk-off to cement the Oakland A's 20-game win streak. Gives me goosebumps. I might shed one single tear, but that's all right. Usually, I would prefer not to. I don't like sad movies.
I will admit the one movie that did get me was Marley and Me.
Oh, yeah.
Of course.
I was going to bring that up, too.
If you don't cry in that movie, you have no heart.
Yeah. Yeah, no. Owen Wilson was great in that movie. Let's get some more of these questions here. Steve says, mailbag, realistically, are we still disappointed with Stevie Y's rebuild so far? I wouldn't say disappointed. I would say people are eager to have a winner, which is fair, but you can't be disappointed means that Steve's been doing a bad job, making the wrong moves, doing the wrong things. I wouldn't say that. It hasn't been disappointed. Now, do we want a winner sooner than later? Of course. But I wouldn't say it's been disappointing. I think that's a little over the top.
No, he's taken a lot of the necessary steps. I think this year, if they don't show improvement in the win column, then I will be disappointed, but not jumping off a bridge or anything. Steve Yzerman, I think he will be the GM of this team for years to come, and someday the Red Wings will hoist a Stanley Cup. And he will be the most legendary figure in the history of Detroit sports. I believe all of that.
Yes. Jesse Adams says, mailbag, Jeff and JB, what fights are you looking forward to on this fight card this weekend at UFC 290? Is Bo Nickel fighting? I don't know if he's fighting this weekend, but I'll be tuning into the card. It's a pretty nice card this weekend. Is it pay-per-view or fight night?
Yeah, it's pay-per-view.
It is pay-per-view. So yeah,
Bo Nickel is fighting too.
Yeah, I'll probably be out somewhere watching that fight. I'll definitely tune in. I haven't had a chance to look at the card because I've been so busy, but still. And Jesse says, yeah, he is. Okay, yeah, I'll be watching Bo Nickel. I love watching Bo Nickel, so I'll be tuning into that. We'll get to one more question before we get out of here. Tyler says, do you guys think Stevie Y tried to trade up and move up for Mitchkov?
No.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think it was realistic, to be honest. Because, again, if you have a player like Mitchkov fall to you, you take him. I don't think there's an opportunity where you trade out. I think the talent, even if you have to wait 3 years, he's going to walk in as, a top 30 player immediately, I would say. So I think it's worth it. I wouldn't say that. Let's see here. One more question before we get out of here. Jesse, we'll get to his question. Mailbag, are you guys going to do a college football preview show before week 0 with Booner? I'm sure, yeah. Booner, he'll be doing a betting show as well. So Booner's our guy for all betting implications. So closer to the season, we'll definitely be doing that with college football.
Hey, guess what we have to look forward to tomorrow?
What's that?
Trivia. What's
yes.
trivia on? What are we doing?
Trivia tomorrow will be thanks to, I don't remember who said it in the chat, or actually it was either in the chat or on Twitter, but we're going to do a little Wimbledon trivia.
Jeez. Interesting. Sam Flannel's just going to download all the Wimbledon information tonight and then walk
Sam
in
won
and just...
again.
I mean, Roger Federer is one of my favorite athletes ever, so I know a thing or two about Wimbledon.
Of course you do.
I'm sorry, Jeff. I just tried to pick some obscure sports topics and you still get some.
Sam is, that's okay. You know what? We're going to compete. Mike says Jeff's taking another L. Don't say that, Mike. You're supposed to have my back. You're the other half of the Jeff and Gentry show. You're supposed to have my damn back.
Games aren't played on paper, though. On paper, I should blow you out, but you never know.
So you're walking in at what, like a minus 300?
Absolutely.
Minus 300 favorite.
Absolutely.
Heavy favorite.
100%.
Like, put a
I
dollar
don't
on
even
me.
think we should call it trivia anymore. I think we should just call it, like, try and beat Flannel.
Yeah, at this point. The dude's an AI, so I got nothing for him. He just spits out facts.
Flannel? There you go.
Can you stop Flannel?
Are you smarter than a flannel?
Are you smarter than Flannel?
My ceiling is your floor, Jeff.
You know what'd be fun? Hold on.
To quote
Lucas Klotz.
Lucas Klotz.
You know what'd be funny if we had people call in and went up against Sam in trivia. That'd be funny, too. You could try and take down Sam Flannel in some trivia.
Love it.
I'll tell you what. Thank you guys for tuning in. Before you leave, like the stream. We're almost at 100 likes here. And subscribe if you haven't already. From Jeff Iafrate, Sam Flannel, JB, Gabby, Alex, we appreciate you guys for taking the time out of your morning to tune into the Morning Woodward Show. We appreciate your support and appreciate you guys for being loyal and sticking with us. We'll see you guys tomorrow for a packed show and some trivia. Until then, see you later.
See ya.